How's it going, everybody? This is the Uncanny Omar from Near Mint Condition, or your second day in a row if you watched the Tarun Grumbeck interview. I am here live with my buddy Peter M because this is something very important. The news broke on my birthday on March 14th, and I came so close to telling Peter, let's do a stream because I really feel like we need to react to this. You and Oddfellow is going to reach out, but I'm like, no, I remain in a non-working condition for my birthday. So I was like, I'll wait. But if one of them messages me, I'm in.
And I was sitting in my home watching the stream of reactions thinking, it's his birthday. He's probably enjoying a drink. I should interrupt that with X-Men.
I was so like, I hope one of them messages me so I have an excuse just to jump on and do it. Hey, Phil, how are you, buddy? And Tyler, I changed my clothes. It's one of my birthday gifts from my buddy Tina. She got me a shirt. It's Wolverine Samurai button-up shirt. It's very classy, very classy.
Very cool.
Omar and Peter, the legendary duo. Thank you, Ahmed. And this, I saw your message, and you're not the first one that has messaged me about this. Can I reach out to Marvel and have them to remove the E from exceptional? I don't think I can. I don't think they will. I think it's a done deal. I can ask, and they're going to be like, what? No. That's the title, and they're sticking to it.
You just got to have Eve Ewing on the show and then talk to her about it directly. That's the way.
Maybe the E is there for a reason. I don't know.
Oh.
Right? Two lives today. Back to back, too. That is a great X-Men. I think so, too. I love it. I think Tina really did a good job picking it out and stuff. Bonjour, Omar. Bonjour, Peter. And thank you, Alex. How are you doing? So today we did want to come together and talk about these new X-Men teams, not just the actual teams with the characters, but the teams, the creative teams that are making this. Let's get to it. I have on Roberto Rodriguez. You always have opinions, my friend. Let's see if we share them. That shirt, Omar, I have the same buttons. You have these buttons, the Wolverine Samurai buttons. Thank you. Dying to know what you guys think of this. Very, very exciting, because we got the announcements of the creators for 3 of them, but we also have a lineup of 9 X-Men comics that are coming. We know that Krakoa is coming to an end. Does it end with a bang or a whimper? I don't know. Fall of X has been going on right now. And how's it going to be collected? That is the biggest question I've gotten. And all I can say is whenever a year ago I talked to David about Krakoa, he's like, we will look at Omnis when Krakoa is all said and done. So it's almost all said and done. And maybe now they can start talking about Omnis. And it would be really fun to bring Map My X and map that headache of a freaking era. Oh my gosh, Peter. Man, you want to get crazy. Let's get crazy. I gotta say, I would love to see a team with the Proud Star brothers, Firestar, especially Sync, as well as hoping Al Ewing writes another title. It is interesting. We still have room open for other titles and who they are and what characters. It'd be fun to talk about what characters belong in these titles too. Thank you for the super chat, Manny. Peter, it could be Austin 2.0 or Milligan. Why would you put that into the world, DBZ All-Star?
As an X-Men fan, I have that jaded chip on shoulder, like, it's probably going to suck, because A, it has sucked on many occasions, but I think that's often just how we react. But I'm always rooting for every comic. I truly am. And especially with these creators, it could suck. Anything could suck, but I really have my hopes up that we're going to get something really thrilling. And that's why I'm excited to talk about it.
This is a really good. Oh, what's up, Make Havoc? How you doing, my brother? Is 9 too many? It feels like too many. I'm trying to think of whenever they launch something, they usually take it pretty slow, right? They're like, hey, we're going to have 5 titles. We're going to have 6 titles. This is the first time I've seen them say right off the bat after a new era that we're going to go ahead and just launch 9 books. Because remember during the Quesada era, it was, okay, we're trimming down the lines and focusing on just like 4 core X-Men titles. That way we can, give it our full focus. 9 is big. I don't know. I mean, maybe they're just showing us exactly what they've got. I don't know if any of those are miniseries either, too.
Although it's a lot to launch all at once, even after Schism, when I think the line was 8, it was a lot of them were pre-existing books, so it wasn't like a total shocker that there were that many. But
Mhm.
this is staggered. It's everybody's talking about as if they're coming out in July, but even some of the initial titles are staggered. So it's 9 titles, but they probably are just going to trickle out. As
I think so
opposed
too.
when Dawn of X started after Hoxpox, it was that month had all 6 titles. So
Yeah.
I think that's probably wise and give each one its moment to shine. I think not everything about Dawn of X and Krakoa was perfect, and I think we can have some hindsight now. I think
Oh, yeah.
launching all 6 of them at the same time probably stole the thunder of some of the smaller books because Hickman was writing an X-Men book, because Duggan was writing Marauders, and it had Kate Pryde and Emma in it, and it kind of some of the other books got a little bit lost. So I think a
I
staggered
mean
approach is actually
I
probably
mean,
pretty smart.
I'm okay with Fallen Angels getting lost. That was pretty awful.
Sometimes it's okay. Sometimes it's for the best.
Thank you, Omar Reyes. Muchas gracias, hermano. And everybody that is here, thank you for joining us. Most of the other titles will probably be like 4 to 5 issue minis. That's Marvel's MO, to keep churning out issue number 1s every few months. I was thinking the same thing. What we're looking at is probably the 3 core titles, and then maybe some of those spinoffs will be ongoing, like Wolverine. But first, I just want to thank again Peter for being here. Not only that, but putting together a slideshow for this presentation that we're about to do, and then talking to you all about my favorite team. And I'm going to say something before we even talk about this. Every freaking time this happens, there's a relaunch, I can't help but be be that kid again that gets excited over some new writer, new artist taking over a book, and it's just I don't care how old I am. It gets me every time. I don't care if it's, right after House of M. I didn't even like that event, or after the whole Civil War mess, or Wolverine not being able to die with, oh God, don't get me started on that. No matter what, after everything, whenever I hear there's a new lineup, there's new creative teams, I can't help but get excited because it's a brand new era. It's almost like ripping off the old Band-Aid and maybe ready for another one, or let's see where this goes. So I think I get excited about these things, but that's just me.
I think for me, my bibliography brain engages, and I'm like, okay, so all the old titles are ending. Some of the titles are the same. Some of them are new. It's like we haven't had Uncanny since the beginning of 2019. Now Uncanny's back, but we also have Adjectiveless. So I just go into librarian mode. Like, how's it all going to break out? How's it all going to line up? As you said, are some of the existing titles kind of going to have a through line to the new titles, or is it just a total clean slate wipe? And that's what's exciting to me, just this idea of kind of structure and the legacy of how titles hand off to each other and how the line continues. There's always going to be X-Men comic books. We've never had a month without an X-Men comic book, even in reprint, since 1963. But to me, it's a question of like how they connect, even with all these little intermediate miniseries that are happening, some of which are really fun, and how they are all going to lead into. I mean, clearly with X-Men Forever having Jean dead on the cover of the solicit and a new series coming up called Phoenix, there are going to be some connections between these series. Similarly, Resurrection of Magneto, if you've been keeping up with it, some really interesting things are happening with both Magneto and Storm. Clearly, that's going to feed into the fact that Magneto, theoretically, is the star of one of these series. He's on the cover.
Well,
so I love those connections.
Yeah. I'm curious, and then I promise we will jump right into this presentation. I'm curious how, if it's going to be one of these, we're starting over from scratch, they don't remember this era, or if it's one of those things that they all remember, some of them remember. And I'm not saying Crisis on Infinite X-Men. I'm saying just I'm curious how they're going to remember when we could bring characters back to life, but we lost good old gold balls. I'm sorry, egg, and now we can't do that again. Can it be that ridiculous? I'm just curious to see how it will all wrap up and who's able to remember.
Kyle made a fantastic point that at a point, X-Men, and in fact, all of Marvel was bi-monthly. So my comment that every X-Men comic has always been monthly ever since 1963.
Oh,
not
yes,
quite
that's
accurate.
right.
Not quite accurate. They've always been, let's call it, regularly released since 1963, even in the reprint years. Good catch, Kyle.
Omar, I remember when they relaunched with all Bendis. I hate you, Philip. Why would you make me remember that? I was still excited because of the artist. You bastard. You just had to bring that up, didn't you? It can't be that ridiculous. Famous last words, right? Miss the good old days with gold balls. All right, let's go ahead and share the screen here, and we can all talk about this era that is coming. Okay, thank you again to Peter for putting this wonderful slideshow together that I looked at right before jumping into the stream. So this announcement came out on March 14th. Some of these writers and artists have been hinting at it, which is great to see, like hinting at, I could be the new writer on X-Men. Gail Simone, looking at you. Love
Gail's
it.
been having a lot of fun on Twitter teasing this. I mean, she always loves to tease Cyclops. So I was like, wow, is Cyclops going to be in Gail's book? But no, she made sure not to tempt the fans to argue further about if it's a heat vision or a concussive blast. But I think the Jed MacKay one was kind of late breaking news. He has not really teased that much, but we'll get to that in just a moment.
He hasn't. So first, let's talk about this title. From the Ashes. From the Ashes, of course, is the storyline that probably a lot of people think back of Paul Smith drawing, because he has ties to that particular story. But it is the Chris Claremont and Paul Smith storyline where a lot of things happen in the X-Men, right? It's kind of like, ooh, is Madeline Pryor really the reincarnation of Jean Grey? But they end up getting Madeline and Cyclops get married, and the Cyclops is like, no, Jean is dead, and this is another woman. Ha!
One of Omar's favorite topics to recap. If Omar can find a reason to recap this period of X-Men on the screen, he will do it.
What, sappy Cyclops? Anytime, baby. Anytime.
There's a really interesting kind of tie-in there with, that's very much part of the era that they're mining in the new animated series, right? It's going to have Madeline. We've seen clips of her pregnant in the series. It's going to have Magneto taking over the X-Men. We've seen that in the toys coming out. So these are kind of broadly known images without knowing any specifics about the episodes. So the series is very much connected to From the Ashes. And even if this is not going to be thematically the same, it's certainly an interesting marketing technique to take the very famous name of that period and then also apply it to the line-wide relaunch, especially for people who were fans in the 80s and early 90s, for all of whom this probably has a very particular resonance. Seeing this specific team, seeing these costumes, hearing these words, they know what they're doing over there at Marvel.
Definitely having that corporate synergy, right? Oh, we're relaunching it. Well, now is the time to, we're getting X-Men 97 out there. Let's go ahead and reveal the costumes so people can get all nostalgic about their childhood, which works for people like me. I'm like, hey, this is good. I like it. So yeah, let's talk about said teams. So this was the big reveal, right? This is the From the Ashes coming in the summer of 2024. You have Uncanny X-Men, which you've broken down, so we can talk about each team here in a second. But this is the big piece. And I always wonder when I see pieces like this, like, you have David Marquez and you've got Ryan Stegman and you have Carmen Carnero, which I'm so excited to actually have.
Possibly my favorite artist at Marvel, favorite regular Marvel artist. Her work is unparalleled, so much energy and texture. But really, you're going to do this teaser and you're not going to have Marquez draw the left side and Carnero draw the right side?
That's like what I thought.
Marquez especially. I mean, Stegman, I'm not going to talk any trash on Ryan Stegman. He's a great artist. But I just think having Marquez on Uncanny X-Men is a pretty big get, especially because he's been doing a lot of DC in the past couple of years. I kind of was just surprised of these three artists that it's Stegman. But Stegman has a huge fan base, very, very kind of known name and popular, certainly more than Carmen Carnero. So I get it from a marketing standpoint. But I kind of was expecting a jam piece. If
that's what I was expecting too.
Yeah.
Like, why would they not get Carmen and David to do their own team? But you're right. Ryan Stegman is huge right now and still at Marvel. One of the most interesting ones, the design of Cyclops, that kind of looks like a kid. Kind of look like young Cyclops to me.
Brevoort got on something, Twitter, Blue Sky, Tumblr, and said it's not meant to be young Cyclops. I like that Brevoort will issue a brief factual statement sometimes to head off the fans from getting too overboard. And so he said,
right, because we start dissecting these pictures and we're like, what does this mean? Remember that
Now, he
big
didn't say
poster?
this is Cyclops who has every single memory of every single thing that happened in Krakoa. He just said it's not young Cyclops.
And we will definitely get to talk about these one team at a time. I just wanted to showcase the entire picture to see how big this is. And somebody already pointed out, where's Storm? Well, definitely getting her own series.
Where's Jean? Where's Iceman?
Where's Jean? And
where's Colossus?
Where's Archangel? One of my favorites. What's going on with him?
It's almost like most of the X-Men Gold's team from 1991 is entirely missing. Every single one of them.
Who are these young bucks over here? So let's talk a little bit about this. This was a big surprise. Oh, Elon, thank you so much. How many streams do you do, Omar? I'm surprised you don't stream yourself dropping a deuce. Thank you. First of all, gross. Not that kind of channel, but I appreciate it. Too many. I'm tired. Can't lie. Stegman is the only reason I'm in on this. Not familiar with the other artists. Oh, Marquez is phenomenal.
Twisted Kister, you're in for a treat. These two are really two of the best working artists in Big Two right now.
What was it that I first noticed his work really standing out? I think it was Ultimate Spider-Man, the Miles Morales stuff. And then Carmen was just freaking became one of my favorite artists when she was doing the Captain Marvel book.
But even before that, I think I first found Carmen Carnero on X-Men Red with Tom Taylor and that amazing midair fight sequence with the Sentinel. I remember being like, who is this? And like flipping back to the credits page. So she's already got a connection with X-Men. Marquez, did he do Civil War II with Brian Bendis? I want to say.
Sarah Pichelli. I know him and Sarah.
Oh, maybe it's Pichelli. Yeah, maybe I'm just thinking
back to back. And sometimes when Sarah was running late on stuff, that's when I first noticed David Marquez. And his art really started shaping up around that time with working with Bendis. But it's been a minute since he's done anything for Marvel, so it's good to see him back on the title. So this is written by Gail Simone, one of my favorite writers. I have loved Birds of Prey, her Secret Six, and probably the only reason I picked up Batgirl for the New 52 because I hated the idea of bringing the character of Barbara Gordon back out of the wheelchair because I love Oracle. That is like the top 20 favorite DC characters. I love her. So I'm excited to see what she's done with X-Men or what she's going to do. Now, she's no stranger to writing some of these characters. She also wrote Deadpool and Agent X for a little bit.
But she had a run on Domino during the Resurrection period. It was very charming and funny.
There were a couple miniseries she's written. But this is the first time I believe on the ongoing Uncanny X-Men title, a woman is going to be the writer. I think.
Well, Kelly Thompson was part of the rotation at the end of 2018.
Oh, that's right. But that was still a brain trust, wasn't it?
It was. She was not. They were never credited singly on an issue by themselves. So this is the first time we've had a solo a woman writing credit on Uncanny X-Men. I think Gail Simone. I've not read everything by Gail Simone, even probably as much as Omar. But when I think of her as a writer, some of the things that stick out to me are she's very good at managing the impermanence of teams. If you look at that Birds of Prey famous run, people are coming and going constantly, and it seems very fluid. It's never like, welcome to Birds of Prey. I hope you survive the experience. It's just characters enter their orbit, they do something, they have a falling out, they go away. And I think more so than most any team writer in the industry right now, Gail is really, really good at that, which is fantastic for X-Men. People are already saying, is this it? Is this the whole cast? And she's like, of course not. And I would never expect it to be the whole cast because she has an MO for characters coming and going. I'm sure there are going to be some core point of view characters in this group that we're never going to lose. I would wager Rogue and Jubilee. But I'm sure people are going to come and go through a revolving door here.
Were you surprised? Because I was surprised that they just revealed the entire or most of the lineup. I was hoping they would do. You remember the Shadow?
They're like, oh yeah, I love that.
What was
but
that?
I think this is a period. Well, they did that. The first time I remember them doing it was for Uncanny X-Force because everybody thought Phantom X was Gambit on the first cover of.
Oh, that's right.
Uncanny
X-Force. It was that era that Nick Bradshaw drew all these connecting covers, and they were showcasing like what characters were going to be an X Factor and stuff. So I'm surprised they didn't do that for this. I kind of like the idea of revealing one character at a time. Again, I get excited about this stuff, and then disappointed when it's not Wolverine. It's actually some other characters. The Ken. Oh god.
But I
Well,
do think they needed to inspire a little bit of confidence. This is so controversial with fans, and also there's such a big media hit about to happen this week that if they wanted to do the one by one reveal, like when were they going to, there's corporate scheduling to come down to, right? When were they going to talk about Gail as the writer? When were they going to talk about David as the artist? And then when were they going to fit in the reveal? Clearly they wanted this out there in time for March 20th with the show starting. So I think they were probably just up against it.
yeah, you're probably right. So we have Rogue, Wolverine, Nightcrawler, Gambit, and Jubilee. Good to see Jubilee in the spotlight again. Very underused character. Kind of disappeared for a while. And kind of vampire for a while. Just kind of people didn't know what to do with that character.
Couple of other kind of interesting little tidbits here. So Gail Simone, known not only for great team books being very funny, all that, she's got a real grim streak. She really can write some creepy stuff. Her Batgirl had some really dark moments. If you've ever read Clean Room from Vertigo, fantastic,
good horror book.
Really, really creepy horror book. Gail is not going to be afraid to take this creepy. The first villain I thought of when she was announced for the title was like Emplet, like something really kind of horrific. And she even said, or maybe Tom Brevoort, the editor, said, these are not going to be sympathetic villains in this X-Men run. So I think Gail Simone is very well positioned to give us some X-Men villains that are scary without just being hated and feared. The humans hate them. Like I'm looking for something creepy, especially setting it in New Orleans, which has this kind of gothic vibe. I'm really looking for that quality to come through. And then from the characters, there's some interesting stuff here. Nightcrawler's just gone through this huge transformation. He had, I don't want to spoil too much, but he was sort of framed for a lot of major crimes in the recent X-Men books. Jubilee has a son, but who has also been spending a lot of time in Otherworld. Is that going to come into play here? So there's a lot of interesting stuff. And Gambit and Rogue, still relative newlyweds and kind of had been both manipulated a little bit by Destiny and Mystique. Again, not spoiling anything in specific. And then to have Nightcrawler on this book after we finally clarified his parentage, along with Rogue and Gambit, there are kind of a lot of ties to things that have been going on in the Krakoan era, which actually makes it more than just X-Men Blue Redux. It's actually got some really interesting hooks in it.
Wait, when you said villains, my immediate thought was, okay, I think we reach a point in X-Men where, oh, this is so cool, this is so fun, and then it's like, but I miss them playing baseball and fighting Magneto and Apocalypse instead of Apocalypse making business deals with a business suit. And I feel like that's kind of where we're gonna go back. And I don't know how new anybody is for comics, because comics at one time were these things where people didn't keep, right? Like they weren't kept for value. You just kind of threw away the comics, kids did. And then that's why you would see a lot of stories being told over and over, time and time again. Then there for a while in the 80s, we established a rule of, I think it was 5 is what we called it, the rule of 5, where every 5 years they recycle the same story. And because you always have this new constant turn of new readers that have never experienced it, which is why we got a lot of the stories that felt very similar if you're a longtime reader. And by the time we get to things like Civil War, most of us old heads were like, didn't we do this crap in the 60s? Didn't we just do this with the Mutant Registration Act? The same thing. So I feel like this is kind of like the pendulum swinging. Okay, we went really weird and odd and no classic villains, right? We introduced a whole new lineup. Now let's bring it back to classic villains and the stuff that everybody's familiar with until we get bored with that again, and then we go back to whatever it is, right? But yeah, so I'm hoping to see classic villains in this, especially when we're talking about the Uncanny X-Men. Do I want it to be the Sentinels in the first issue just because they appear in the X-Men 97 series? No, I kind of want to have, I want Gail to have fun with the series too. And bring back a lot of the characters that she made in the Deadpool book, like Outlaw. That would be cool. Adjectiveless. This is the one that's really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, talk about a group of characters that have never been all together on a book before. This is a pretty eclectic cast.
This definitely has that Exiles feel. But I know that future or further images have been revealed of the gentleman in the chair, who's in a floating chair, mind you. That I think most people are like, oh, it's Magneto, right? Like surely it's Magneto. So I assume it is Magnus. It's Mag. I don't think it's Joseph. I don't think it's Professor X wearing a new helmet or Cerebro helmet in honor of his fallen friend. But the one that I find really interesting is Psylocke. Because
and not Betsy, but
so it's not Betsy. But we haven't seen Betsy yet. But this is Quanon Psylocke, right?
So a couple of interesting pulls here. Magic has kind of been in the background a little bit for a lot of the Krakoan era. She's ostensibly one of the captains, but she hasn't really had as many moments as she had in previous eras, right? Beast, it right now is in the throes of a pretty big arc in Benjamin
I'm surprised to
Percy's
see him so early.
X-Force. Again, I don't want to spoil anything from people who are waiting for trades, but there's certainly some question what condition Beast is going to be in when he appears here. Oya, or now called Temper, which is part of the exiles that had escaped after they had been sentenced to the pit. So she is very much on the outs from the center of the X-Men. Cyclops currently is in jail in Paris, awaiting for reasons that I won't spoil. Choir is in some really dire straits if you've been keeping up with Benjamin Percy's Wolverine. So if you've been reading the books, and then Juggernaut also being used in Duggan's Fall of the House of X. So this is really the book of like, oh, and then Magneto, in Resurrection of Magneto, I don't know if it's a spoiler to talk about, he needs to be resurrected at the moment. So this is a set of characters that it's really hard to think about how they are all going to wind up in one book, not because they're all so different from each other, but because McKay has really made a point of picking characters that are almost unreachable or unusable given their status right now, which I think is going to play into why they are together in this book.
Okay, so my thoughts initially, like, I don't know why I went right to Magic, and I thought, oh, we're gonna go back to the Bocello design. Cool, I really liked it, and I'm glad that she's kind of a focus again. Juggernaut kind of, I'm not gonna lie, gave me the this is before I even looked at who was writing and working on the book. I went, oh man, I'm getting the Chuck Austin vibes from Juggernaut being on the team, but that's because that was a character that Chuck Austin wrote when he was writing Uncanny. Beast I find the most interesting just because of all the crap he's been doing lately, and that's what I meant. Like, are people going to forget? Are we doing a reboot? Are we doing a Crisis? Like, I kind of not joking. Crisis on Infinite X-Men, where this era is just we can always revisit. Like, you know, it's such a popular era. I don't think that it will be forgotten. Psylocke is fully clothed while Jubilee is wearing a crop top. That is an interesting point, Marcia Pilgrim. Thank you so much, Murph, Ballad of Celestials, for the kind words in the super chat. I can watch you two talk about anything. You're just good people who are funny, passionate, knowledgeable, and always positive. Thanks for making this. Oh, I was just excited to talk. Thank you for the kind words. I was just excited to talk to people about X-Men. This is just fun. I mean, you know, and I know that not everybody is excited, and you don't have to be. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. I'm just bringing my.
I want to find the things that are exciting about it, right? Like I am. If you follow me on Twitter, it is no secret that I love Krakoa. I don't think Krakoa should ever go away. I think X-Men from before Krakoa, I don't even care about anymore. But there can still be exciting things about this. It's no fun to get on stream and be like, "Well, this is gonna suck because there's not gonna be gates and there's not gonna be flowers and the
I'm sure there are channels that have already done that. They beat us to it.
I'm not interested in it. I'm here to talk about why comics are great. Like, you know, I have my little barbs that I get in here and there, but if you don't want to get excited about comics, like why are you spending your time?
I'm excited about Jed McKay coming on the book. I don't know how I feel about him carrying Avengers and X-Men at the same time. It just seems like a lot of work for one dude. And on top of that, he's writing Doctor Strange, which could come to an end, and Moon Knight, which just started. Just seems like a lot of workload for the guy.
And isn't he the primary author of Blood Hunt this summer?
Oh, he's doing he's the one that's overseeing 53 issues of that big crossover.
Now, clearly not all of those titles necessarily are going to last all the way to the end of the year.
And I'm sure that he's not in charge of every title, right? But you know what I'm saying? Like that
Yeah, I
seems
mean,
like
well,
a
Jed, I
lot
mean,
of work.
he's a proven hit. Like his titles keep getting whipped right out in omnibus, which tells me Marvel has a ton of confidence. There's not a lot of people they do that for. Usually, it's only people at the like Kate's level of mega popularity. But we had a Black Cat omnibus. That Jesse tried to, or
No,
Jesse's
no,
book.
Jesse's good. I
And
like Jesse.
Jess tried to sneak onto the evergreen list. We already have a Moon Knight omnibus. The run is barely over. So clearly, even if you're not feeling it in your own fan space, Jed is super, super popular. And Brevoort hinted there's a reason why he's writing both X-Men and Avengers. And wouldn't it be cool to like see some synergy? We've never had a writer writing the main X-Men book and the main Avengers book at the same time ever before in history.
You're absolutely right about that. That like I said, that's the only thing I worry about. That it's just so much workload that some of those might have to go. And I don't want Moon Knight to go. And have
Strange is brilliant.
This last trade of Doctor Strange with General Strange was freaking
so
phenomenal. And I don't want him to put aside that to, I mean, I get it, right? It's X-Men. Everybody wants to write X-Men. But here's the thing about X-Men. The end of the day, X-Men is going to X-Men, meaning that we have the writers. You can be excited about the writers, but there's a lot of editorial mandate when it comes to writing these. I mean, we've heard time and time again how many of our favorite writers, like I love Jeff Lemire and I love Ed Brubaker, but their X-Men run is so forgettable and honestly right down awful sometimes. Peter Milligan.
How dare you malign the Brubaker run? We'll come back to that. I'll get you back.
Oh, the Brubaker. Oh, no. What? No, not today, Peter. We're still celebrating Omar.
Yeah, the celebration of both Omar and X-Men. No, none of that negative talk.
So that is the one thing, that for the longest time, since it is their flagship best-selling books, it's a lot of editorial like changes and mandates, like, oh, you can't use so-and-so, they're going to be in this, we're taking this character and we're putting it over here. Now you have to use Betsy instead of Sonic, and writers get tired. But I mean, that is just something that comes with the work, right? You sign up for X-Men, you almost kind of know what you're in for just based on what the previous writers have done.
Now, Omar, I have one more question for you before
Sure.
I ask. I want to say happy birthday to Rodimus Prime Rib in the comments. One of our
is it his birthday?
Flyers.
Where is he?
I don't know. He said he wanted to be wished a happy birthday. I guess it could be any day of the year, but
okay, there you go. So look at that. Now you're getting
another one of our March babies.
Love it. Jenny,
and hanging out with us.
Time and a half and overtime for this stuff.
But Omar, here's the question I want to ask you as a classic X-Men fan. Mm-hmm. This book is set in Alaska with Cyclops leading again from the ashes. Where was Cyclops in the front? What do you think Jed is doing to us here with these little details?
And Jed is a guy that actually knows a lot about history of these characters. He was a fan and also a really good writer. So I'm excited to see where he ties into this. And we know you mentioned it already, but yeah, Maddie, no Phoenix yet, huh? Though that would be a big, interesting smack to the face. Stegman, my goodness. That guy is a solid artist. I say we get a first 6 issues all done by Stegman, and then we get a fill-in artist, and then he comes back for the second arc because I'm just a realist. But I'm excited. Guys,
yeah, Stegman's pretty quick. Honestly, all 3 of these artists, Cronero, like doesn't even need a skip artist for a whole arc. She takes off like a week and then comes back. So
and then does variant
really
covers. She does variant covers on top of that, man. It's crazy. I love that Beast is back to his classic look, but then again, that might be due to the art that was going on in the pages of X-Force and also in Wolverine. I don't know how I feel about the big giant X on Juggernaut. It's a little too on the face, not too on the nose like Damaged as a tattoo on your forehead, but we get it.
Well, since he's not a mutant, ostensibly, he's got to really advertise. They got to use that real estate as a billboard to really scream X. But I mean, there's definitely something about. There's an interesting theme with this team about visibility. Like right now, they've been playing in the line a lot with Cyclops as really the figurehead, starting from right after X of Swords, where Cyclops and Jean kind of reject the Quiet Council and say, we're going to do X-Men our way, and they go off to be X-Men. Then there's all that Captain Krakoa stuff where he has to be on the down low from being the leader of the X-Men. Then that kind of gets corrupted. Now in the current books, he's kind of being used as a symbol for all of mutantdom in a way, which I won't further spoil. So to put him on X-Men and have Jed MacKay writing it, there's definitely really something to the symbolism here, as opposed to him not being on Uncanny. And what does that mean about like the relative visibilities of these two teams in the world? I think that's really interesting.
Well, Stegman, I'm not saying Stegman's going to leave. I mean, we've seen him do
he's stuck on Venom pretty much the whole
Venom
run.
book, like 30 plus issues. And I'm not saying he drew every one of them, but he was committed to doing most of those issues and also doing the big event, the King in Black. So I assume when there is an event, like maybe Avengers, I don't know if they'll call it versus X-Men or Avengers plus X-Men. Yeah. I'm excited for that team. Exceptional X-Men. Somebody wants to petition to remove the E. I love that. But there could be a reason why it's exceptional. This is written by Eve L. Ewing, and the artwork is Carmen Carnero. And this is the one that I thought, that is an interesting choice, because of course when I see Ewing I think of Al, and there's no relation. Al is not related to Eve. Eve, I believe, please correct me if I'm wrong, Peter, was a poet, or is a poet and a novelist. Has done some comic book work. I mean, not a ton under her belt. She did Ironheart.
She wrote Ironheart. She was the first writer of Ironheart really after Bendis.
And actually made me like Ironheart.
Also, Dr. Eve Ewing, by the way. She, which it's me who didn't put it in the slideshow, but yeah, she's a poet. She is a professor at points. She's been published in tons of magazines, New Yorker, The Atlantic. She's been in the New York Times. She's written nonfiction books. A lot of her books are set in Chicago because she really is like a scholar of Chicago history. In particular, her Ironheart was set in Chicago. And so this is also going to be set in Chicago, where Kitty Pryde is from. So that's kind of a really interesting connection. The first place Kitty ever meets Emma is in Chicago at the very beginning of the Dark Phoenix saga. And then the other thing, of course, is that Eve Ewing is writing Black Panther right now. I just caught up to the newest issue last night. I was on this channel talking on it at the beginning, but I really love it now. Eve Ewing can do a slow burn.
I was gonna say I did not like that first trade paperback.
No, it got way stronger.
Now I just said trade. I really loved Ironheart. Like, I hated the character of Ironheart because of the way Bendis made her like a stereotypical one-dimensional character and pretty much copy and paste the Miles Morales formula. And I thought, this is what we're gonna do. This is the replacement of Iron Man. This character sucks. And then I remember when Maddie wanted to do an old reader, new reader on Ironheart, and I was like, I don't want to. Look, I'm going to tell you how. But here's the thing, though, because you just said something that I'm like, just because you're a novelist, award winner, like, and a poet, does not mean that you're going to be a good comic book writer.
No, we've seen plenty
I read that and loved it. Loved Ironheart. And she threw some New Warriors in there just to solidify that I'm going to love it. I didn't expect to like it, and she made the character so likable, and I was sad to see that it lasted, I think, 8 issues, whatever it was, because people weren't buying it, right? By that point, it was like, we're tired of Ironheart. We don't want her to be a replacement Iron Man. We want her to go away. And that's what happens when you have a character that's introduced, and it's introduced badly. But she made me like really dig that character, and I missed that comic when it was gone. So I got really excited when I found out she was going to be writing Black Panther, but I did not dig that first trade. But if you're saying it got better, then, I'm in.
Well, here's the thing. I think it's really interesting. Eve Ewing is really interested in like the cultural aspect of community and of what that means around a character. And I think in Chicago, she gets to really like pull from the things that are in Chicago, actually, which is why I think her Ironheart run was so authentic and fun and light. And with Black Panther, not only did she need to define things of Wakanda, but she has them in a city that hasn't really been explored before. And he's in exile in this run after the Ridley run. And I just felt like she really needed 4 whole issues to kind of lay out the land. Now, would another comic writer maybe space that out more and hit us with more exciting stuff at the beginning? Maybe. Everybody's a different writer. But here we're back in Chicago, right? And everybody looking at this book, I mean, this is almost a New Mutants book, right? It's or Hellions.
Yeah, like I was
Kitty's
gonna
trying
ask
to
you. I'm
live.
not. I trade read, right? So I don't know who Bronze or Exo or Melee
They're
are.
all new. They're all
Okay,
new inventions. So the idea is that Kitty's in Chicago. This
is
is what
this
they
a
said
real
in the
thing?
announcement. She
Did people really think e-viewing is? Somebody wrote that said somebody was trash. Yeah, here we go. Someone wrote an article trashing e-viewing about nepotism that she only got work at Marvel because of her dad Al.
which is so funny on so many levels.
Especially if you've seen the picture of both of them.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. I bet the same person thinks Stan Lee was Jim Lee's dad. I bet that actually happened because that was before the internet. That was before the internet.
But
Go ahead.
But
I'm
so
sorry.
Kitty, the idea is Kitty goes to Chicago basically to leave her mutant life behind, right? And I got to talk on this for a second. I don't know if that was actually said at the panel. The panel itself, I don't think was streamed, or if it was just some Twitter people kind of paraphrasing her. But a lot of people on X Twitter, I love y'all, but people got real twisted about Kitty would never leave her mutant life behind. This is Kate Pride. Think of everything she's been through. But if you've been following her arc through all of this, she has really gone full soldier in a way that she never had. It starts back in 2017 when she kind of comes back into the fold and she says, I'll be the headmistress. I will look after the mutant race, right? And then at the end of everything that happened with Age of X-Men, she's like shell-shocked, which is how Marauders begins. Emma's like, let's put you on a boat. She's like, what if I drink? What if I get my knuckles tattooed? Now we're coming, if you read X-Men 25, which happened right after the Hellfire Gala last year, it is the most shocking, violent Kate Pride issue that has ever been written. I was mouth agape at what she does in the issue. So the idea that she maybe is not leaving her mutant life behind, but has severe PTSD and is not really ready to do X-Men stuff right now, I think that's actually a pretty accurate read on where she's going to be at the end of all this Fall of X stuff. But then Emma just can't leave her alone. And I really love that thread still being pulled, that like Emma and Kate are this pair. And ever since the Claremont, ever since Astonishing, right? It really makes sense. So the idea is that she's in Chicago. She's like, I really don't want to do this X-Men stuff right now. And Emma's like, well, there's still New Mutants out there, so you have to. So it's kind of a Hellions book. It's kind of a New Mutants book, you know, like it's got all those flavors.
When so my buddy Max, because yeah, he messaged me a picture of this teams, and it was a big splash, right? And it was all pixelated, and I'm like, I can't. He was like, who are these characters? And in the back, I was like, is that? I think that's Feral in the back.
Yeah, like it's Feral. It's Solomon Kane, Weapon X, or what is his name? Not Solomon Kane. He's just Kane, the guy with the metal arms, right? Like when I first saw the picture, I'm trying to, and then I'm like, oh, and the girl, maybe that's. I was just trying to think of who they were, but they're all new characters.
Yeah, I'm sure. Try it out. I mean, how many times have we tried New Mutants and it failed? A lot. But how many times have we tried New Mutants and some of them stuck? Not as many as it's been has not stuck, but I'm willing to give it a shot. And the fact you have Emma and Kitty on the team, but I will be honest with you, Peter, the biggest thing to me that is making me love this title, not so much the word exceptional, is Carmen Carnero, because
that's the draw.
She's an amazing artist, and she is fast and can carry a monthly. And if you haven't seen her art, do yourself a favor and check out just some of her sequential art that is everywhere on Captain Marvel. The stuff that she did in Captain Marvel. She is freaking awesome.
And she was also the artist for the first arc of Kelly and Lansing's Captain America, and it looked absolutely stunning. She's great. Like y'all, when Omar and I go off to this extent about an artist, we're not just having fun. Like there's certain artists that we just cannot physically stop ourselves from talking about. And Carmen Carnero is real high on that list right now.
Look, we David Marquez, lots of love.
Amazing,
right?
flawless.
Brian Stegman, everybody loves that guy. But I'm telling you, that's my favorite artist that's on the 3 books right now is Carmen Carnero. I love her art. I think she's I think it's one of those cases that, like, how is she so fast and so good and keeping it professional? Love it.
She's another one of these Italian artists, right? Like Sarah Pacelli, another one of my Italian siblings.
I love Sarah Pacelli, but also not the quickest artist, right? Not too quick. But yeah. Why is Emma on a floating device?
Right? Like it's just such a weird choice on this covers. But I'll throw one more thing. I'll throw one more thing in. Typically, when they throw a bunch of other adjectives onto the titles, everybody treats that like that's the redheaded stepchild title. Sometimes it turns into Astonishing X-Men and it's a hit. But a lot of times when we get a non-standard adjective like astonishing, it kind of just gets like, or not, what's the other one? Amazing. It kind of just gets swept off to the side. My fear here is that it's an unknown adjective. Eve Ewing's not a huge seller on her own. Kitty on a book of New Mutants, like I just worry that fans are not going to give it a chance. I already see so much skepticism. So I'm really beating the drum for this one. I think Kitty back in Chicago. I think Carmen Carnero. I think Eve Ewing. I think it's got a lot of potential. So I'm begging y'all not to tune out just because it doesn't have a cast of characters that are widely appealing to you.
All right, there you go. That is the seal of approval from Peter.
Well, no, let's not get it twisted. I didn't give it a seal of approval.
He hasn't read the book yet. Okay, let's talk about some of these other titles. All we have is the title. We don't have any creative teams. We don't have any characters. But when you see a name like X-Force, and I see my one of my favorite writers, Fabian Nicieza, writing Cable, my thoughts are
really
like,
fun.
Oh my God,
super
please,
fun.
please let Fabian Nicieza write X-Force. He needs, and like he told me he would not go back to do New Mutants unless he 100, or I'm sorry, New Warriors, have they right? New Warriors, unless he 100% had control over the things, and he's like, they're not gonna do that. But he never said no about X-Force, and it's just my wishful thinking, right? I think we're tapping into new blood. And Fabian is definitely one of these guys that has been around for a while. But honestly, I mean, so has Gail Simone. I feel like it can happen. But anyway, that is the writer that I choose for X-Force. And I would love to know what everybody thinks.
Who's going to turn up on this cast, right? Like it's the
throwback.
Oh yeah,
no, we are going to talk about the cast here in a second.
But you want to talk about writer
first?
About as long as it's not Benjamin Percy or Ed Brazon. Let's get somebody. If we're gonna let's cycle in some new folks here. I would love to see Dennis Camp write X-Force. I think that would be really cool. But he's writing. Dennis Camp guy. I just think he's got cool ideas, and he just rocked on that Children of the Vault with Cable and Bishop, who I would like to see on this X-Force team. Maybe that was an audition book for him. Maybe, I don't know. But I think he would bring like an interesting tone to the hyperviolence of X-Force. I would not mind seeing Taryn Grumback write an X-Force book, but I think she's a little busy right now. I'm just trying to think of who can bring the violence, but have like another layer to it, so it's not just the stabbing book, right? And that's what I want to see.
That Children of the Vault was amazing. I loved it. For characters I don't care about, outside of Mike Carey, I didn't think anybody could really write them. I mean, not even Hickman did. I don't think Hickman did a great job with the idea of the Children of the Vault. But that miniseries was so good because it wasn't about them, right? It was Bishop and Cable. Like a buddy.
Yeah, they should have just called it Bishop and Cable. It probably would have sold twice as much.
Probably sold better, right?
Yeah.
So then, I wouldn't mind that. But honestly, deep down in my soul, I would love for Fabian to come back and write one of these books. And this would be my choice. Now, who would be on the team? X-Force.
Well, is it going to be Cable? I mean, there's a Deadpool movie coming out, but Cable's not in it. Do you somehow work in Deadpool? He's been on X-Force casts before, including Uncanny X-Force. Is it going to be the classic team? We haven't seen any of those characters popping up in this mix yet. Magic's New Mutants, but she's not really an X-Force person. So is it going to be like a Cannonball, Danny Moonstar, Boomer, Richter Shatterstar to kind of give it that 90s
She's not going
vibe?
by Boomer anymore, is she?
What is it? Boomer. I think they just call her Tabitha to avoid it.
Oh, God. I always hated it.
But then X-Force, then there's kind of the post-2008 version of X-Force, which always has a Wolverine on it, right? So, but would they have Wolverine do double duty? Would there be a reason to? Would we get Lara as Wolverine? Would we get Daken as whatever they're calling him now?
Oh, please don't bring that into
existence. Fang or whatever.
Honey Badger. Give me Honey Badger. All right.
I would love to see Honey Badger, but I'm just saying, since 2008, I mean, we're talking 16 years of comics, X-Force has become increasingly synonymous with somebody with claws is on the team. So it could kind of go the Cable New Mutants 90s route. It could go the Claws route. We don't know yet, but the throwback logo kind of suggests it could be a little more nostalgic.
I think my first choice is Cable for this, just because of what you said, right? But the other character that I don't think Deadpool. I don't think Cable and Deadpool in an X-Force book together, but I would. Now I can't get Cable and Bishop out of my head, so I'm gonna go with Bishop, because we haven't seen Bishop show up in any of the other
No.
teams. I mean, he still could be an Uncanny, right? And I don't think he's ever been in an X-Force team. He's
He
been
has an
an
Uncanny X-Force
anti-hero or
2013
villain in the
by
X-Force.
Sam Humphries.
Was he in that team?
Yes, he was. He was the main plot driver of that team because everybody wanted to kill him because he was pretty fresh off the whole. But here's the other thing to think about with this, right? We're coming out of Krakoa. In Krakoa, X-Force was like the mutant CIA, right? They took care of business. They kind of killed who needed to be killed. What is X-Force going to mean in a world potentially with no Krakoa, or not, at least not as centralized a Krakoa as we have now? What does the murder team or the ends justify the means team going to do? What are they going to do that distinguishes them to what Cyclops' team is doing? So that's going to be really interesting to me. I always love X-Force. I mean, I'm an easy mark. I have nostalgia. I think it tends to be a good book. So I'm really excited to see everybody in the chat's like Laura on X-Force, Laura on X-Force. But there's another title coming up in a few slides that might be the more logical home of Laura.
That's an interesting title. So I'm thinking Bishop, Cable for this. Throw in some classic characters that have been on X-Force before. Somebody like Sunspot, maybe even Shatterstar. We're probably going to have some characters that have never been on X-Force before. I'm trying to think who, honestly, I want to see Longshot. Longshot's a character.
That would be a lot of fun.
And Longshot has never been on X-Force. Shatterstar's been on X-Force. Longshot has been on X-Men, and he's been on X-Factor. So, yeah, I can kind of see that. I don't know if they would put Deadpool in this book. I kind of have... Don't we have another title that Deadpool could fit into?
And also, it's going to be a big year for him, so I don't know if they want to shoehorn him into an X book. But again, those casts in the first 3 books, very obvious, right? Like, very like, those are the characters we would want to see on the cover. So I don't anticipate any of these are going to go super obscure. My bet would be each one of these debuts with a cover with a bunch of very familiar looking characters.
Oh, and Honey Badger. That instead of Laura. But I guess she could be a supporting member, though. They did Spiral already, didn't they?
Spiral is on Uncanny X-Force, and I love Spiral. We haven't seen very much of her in this whole era because she's not like,
well, that makes sense. So Cannonball, I don't know. Hickman used him, and he used him in his Avengers, and then he was back in New Mutants. Maybe take a break from Cannonball. Sunspot. Actually, I kind of dig the idea of having Sunspot back. Maybe Shatters. Although that dynamic
is going to be in the cartoon, and Sunspot was in the New Mutants movie. I think Hickman raised his what's the word I'm looking for? His visibility a lot during the Avengers run. Same with Cannonball, but then Cannonball was kind of put on the shelf because he got married and kind of just went to Shar Space. And then Ewing really picked up Sunspot and really ran with him in New Avengers and US Avengers in early all new, all different Marvel. So is Sunspot now a big enough character to like be towards the center of the cover of a book? Maybe.
I'm trying to think who else would be on this team. I like to see Siren back, but then I just want to see my X-Force back, right? Without I'm playing it safe. And when you're
right, like shake things up a little bit. I'm not into X-Men. I know a lot of people like their nostalgia. They have their favorite old comics. That's cool. But I always want to see them do a little something new. That's why I kind of like the Jed McKay lineup, because it's like, ooh, those characters have never been all on a book together. So I hope X-Force is a little bit of that. If it's just like when Ed Brisson brought back X-Force in 2019, and it was pretty much just rubber stamp the exact cast of 1991 X-Force, I just get a little cynical. So I'm really hoping they shake it up and there's somebody unexpected here.
Yeah, I'm curious who's going to be on it, but honestly, more curious who the writer is.
Yes,
lots of good choices. Everybody in the chat. Cable, Sage, I miss Sage, but she was a big part of X-Force too, right?
She's been really great in this whole X-Force run. Now she's in the Sabretooth War and Wolverine. Yeah, she's been a pretty big character.
We need more dupe.
Somebody on Twitter, I forget, so I can't give credit, said they just want to see the original cover of X-Force 1991 with that same lineup, except for dupe instead of Cable.
That could work, actually. What about an artist? Who would you like to see tied to X-Force? Who's somebody that you would like to see that can draw a lot of characters and big guns, big pockets.
I mean, it's huge shoes to fill. Joshua Cassara did like I think half of this most recent X-Force run and is, absolutely a phenomenal superstar, wound up on the X-Men book. And then even thinking back to 2010 Uncanny X-Force, that's how we all got acquainted with Jerome Opeña. So like there's a pedigree, and then even going further back, I mean Capullo, Greg Capullo is a hugely famous X-Force artist. I think X-Force has a pretty strong artist pedigree. So
yeah,
I would kill. Could they get Greg Capullo to come back for an arc? Like, holy Lord.
You're right. Liefeld. And after Liefeld, it was Capullo. Then Capullo was Tony Danielle, and then Adam Polina, who I think was one of the most underrated.
All super.
God, I would love for them to steal Dan Mora.
Could you imagine?
Well, on an X title, it would be X-Force because he can do it. He's fast, and he can do a team book. I think he's got some kind of contract though at DC, but that would be my.
I wouldn't want it to see. I just wouldn't want to see it go too cartoony or stylized. I just don't think that works on X-Force. So like thinking about those artists that have been on Jed McKay's Moon Knight, great artists, love them on Moon Knight, not the right style for X-Force. I want to see something really, that has some heft and some like 3D weight to it.
Yep. Anyway, that's just my choice.
Now, I don't think I put these in any particular order.
No, it's okay.
Okay.
X Factor. Wow.
Now this makes me excited.
This is X Factor. Always seems to be okay. What are we gonna do with these characters now? Who's gonna be on this team? Who's gonna write it? And most of us, it's weird because Peter David came in towards like the second half of the X Factor life, and I think most people probably think X Factor Peter David. Now, sadly, he is in bad health, and we hope that he bounces back. I don't think he'll be David, of course, as much as I want it to be, because I love his X Factor. X Factor. This one, I want to let you go first. What do you think about the writers like on X Factor?
I mean, I got to start from concept over writer here because it really depends, right? X Factor is three very distinct things, right? It's the original X-Men, which we're probably not going to get because Cyclops and at least Phoenix, if not Jean, have their own books. Sometimes it's like government-y. Sometimes it is Madrox Investigations, right? So if the main X-Men, the original X-Men are off the table, the question really is this going to be a Havoc book, a Lorna book, or a Madrox book? It could be something completely different. It could be a Mystique book. Maybe Mystique could be on X-Force for all we know. I do feel like Mystique is kind of a big question mark for me. I really do expect her to show up somewhere given how big she was in the last era and how popular she's gotten. And Mystique does have a history on X Factor. So I just want to lay that out there, right? It could be government-y. It could be investigations-y. Even Leah Williams' version of X Factor in, what would that have been, 2020, 2021, was very investigations-y, but it didn't have Madrox. It had Lorna in that role. So I do think this book kind of trends a little bit less forceful missions, trends a little bit more slice of life-y, a little bit more dramatic. And I think that would probably be reflected in the writer for it. If we're talking about wish list, I've really, really loved Rainbow Rowell and She-Hulk. I think Rainbow Rowell does really fun, kind of like dramatic people bumping heads against each other casts. I think that's the right vibe for X Factor. I know she tends to only write one book at a time and her She-Hulk is ongoing. So I don't want to steal her from She-Hulk, but I could see that same kind of frantic, slightly silly energy really translating to an X Factor run.
I mean, we have Jed McKay writing 5 books, so I don't see why Rainbow Rowell couldn't do the same. The thing that's got me thinking is the type of book that this is going to be. Because we've seen like the detective book, we've seen the stories that Leah Williams did and Peter David and Louise Simonson. Everybody has had like oh my gosh, and that second volume X Factor. I always forget about that 4-issue miniseries that was just called X Factor. It had nothing to do with the previous.
Oh right, yeah. Puzzling bibliographers everywhere. Nobody understands it or why it exists.
And it has a trade, and that's about it.
Yeah.
What do you do with a title like this? This one is the one that and I love the fact that they're using that logo though. That is the classic X Factor logo Um, from, well, not the first one, right? Because the first one was kind of a little generic-y, but this is the one that was updated. Man. So in my mind, I'd like to see characters like Archangel and Iceman who are missing. That's two characters that have been in an X Factor comic. You throw in Dazzler, seems to have a popular, and it would be funny to use Dazzler for an X Factor book because she was one of the ideas that Claremont wanted.
I have another intended home for Dazzler, but I certainly wouldn't.
Do you? Interesting. Okay.
X Factor.
Would you like to see the return of Valerie Cooper and make this like one of those government books?
I do think, given the concepts we've seen from the main books, from Gail and from Jed and from Eve, it does kind of feel like there's room for sort of a government-y or sanctioned or public relations-y team, because it feels like both the Gail book and the Jed book are kind of investigating and looking into things happening. So it feels like it would be weird to have a third book of that. I think Brevoort as an editor is pretty smart about having each book have a pretty firm lane that it fits into that differentiates it from other books. So it doesn't feel like Investigations is right. And so if it's going to be kind of like government-y, could it be Val Cooper? Could it be Abigail Brand in sort of a redemption from some of the stuff that's gone down in Krakoa? Could it be a redux of Freedom Force, right? And that puts Mystique in the driver's seat. There's a lot of interesting places that X Factor could go.
Okay. Now, what about the creative team? Who would you like to see on an X book, on a team book?
I think X Factor is a book that has room to be not as classic house style Marvel comic booky. Even thinking back to the beginning of the Peter David run, right? Like it was very like noirish and cool. I think you can also get away with it being a little bit more stylized, especially if it's going to be a little bit more lighthearted or slice of lifey or funny, which none of these books really seem like they're the funny book yet. So I think there's a lot of room. I just can't help but want to see the whole like Runaways She-Hulk team on this book. So I'm kind of hyper fixating on that right now, which is I think Andres Genoulet right now, who's the art on that. But I don't know. Who are you thinking, Omar?
I'm a big fan of Christopher Cantwell. I really enjoyed his Iron Man run. All his independent comics I have enjoyed. And I think he's working on a Thanos book now. I would love to see him do an X-Men title, and I think X Factor, whatever quirky or whatever weird thing they're going to do with it, would be the title. Because I would love to see him do a team book. Because he can do a lot of characters. I don't know. I'm not sure. We never talked about it. Did you like his Iron Man run and his Hellcat, Patsy Walker story?
Yeah, I did. Hold on. So I'm sorry. Which artist are you talking about?
Well, I was talking about the writer, Christopher Cantwell.
Oh, Cantwell. Cantwell's very hit or miss. I love his TV show. What is it called? Burnt. I forget. It's about startup. No. It's about startups in the 1980s. Halt and Catch Fire. Amazing. Some of his indies books, like She Can Fly, are a little strange. I loved his Iron Man. So he's kind of hit or miss for me. I just think Cantwell's getting to be a pretty big name at Marvel. I mean, talk about somebody who could probably anchor an X-Force book. Cantwell makes more sense than to X Factor for me, but I think if it's kind of like government-y and it's got a little bit of a bureaucracy vibe to it, Cantwell's actually very good at that.
Yeah, that's one guy that I just think would be a good fit for a team book that can manage a team book too, because not everybody can.
Although that Thanos book, you haven't read it yet. It's dividing fan opinion. Let's just say that.
Okay. You had mentioned Joshua Cassara, or but I think who's the artist on oh my gosh, Red Goblin, Jan Bazaldua?
Yes, although aren't they drawing somebody? I feel like I just read them on something like last night.
Was it Red Goblin? Oh no, Red Goblin's over. I don't know.
Come to me.
I would like to see Jan Bazaldua. And I take back what I said on my X-Force. Nick Klein would be a good X-Force artist.
Oh yeah.
That guy that did Thor, he's got that gritty art style. I'd like to see that. But yeah. Will Iron Man make appearances in exceptional X-Men? Interesting with Emma being on the team, huh?
And it'll be interesting to see if they divorce him real hard real fast from the X-Men line once this is all over. I have to say, it's been a great book with him connected to the X-Men line.
Yeah, it's been fun. Jerry Duggan has been doing a killer stuff. All right, Wolverine. I think this is the one that we kind of know the artist, maybe, right? Like,
Greg Capullo has it already been revealed?
No, it hasn't. But Greg Capullo has been posting a lot of Wolverine pictures. They could just be covers. And another thing that Greg Capullo has said is that he's done doing monthly comics. He said he's getting to that age where he can't do that anymore. So I can't imagine launching Wolverine with whoever the writer is and Greg Capullo, and then Greg Capullo leaving Wolverine with like 6 issues because he's like, I can't do this. So this is a tough one. I don't know. I can't, part of me wants to say Greg Capullo, but I feel like he would be good for a mini series, which would be really interesting if they are making Wolverine a mini series and not an.
I don't know, man. This is a book that it's lasted all through Krakoa, even though at some points it has felt like there is no.
He was on an adamantium surfboard.
Right, it has felt at points like there has been no concept to go along with the book, and yet it is still going to make it to 50 issues. I do not think they can resist having a Wolverine book that's an ongoing book. Maybe Capullo does like an opening arc, right? Plenty of lead time, big splash. But who's the writer? Who's now previous to the end of last year? I think I would have said, and I have seen rumored, Saladin Ahmed, who has shown that he can handle 2 titles at once very ably, and his his Daredevil has been amazing.
I'm digging it.
Definitely. Oh, I am way digging it.
I read issue 1 because it's up in my
trade. You got it.
And when I read issue 1, I was like, I know he's a bit of a slow burn writer, but I really hope it picks up.
Every issue has been its own distinct thing. I don't know. I mean, I have my own weird taste, but I really am loving it. So he sticks out to me. He's got a really cool, gritty vibe. If you've ever read his indie stuff like Abbott, he's really he can do dark, he can do scary.
Oh yeah, he did that vampire book. That was an indie book he did. He's solid. Saladin Ahmed is a name somebody brought up when I was doing an interview with Torunn Grumbeck, because I said, because she would love to write Wolverine, and I would love to see her on Wolverine. And so this is something that has been circulating, that Saladin Ahmed might be the Wolverine writer, huh?
I've heard, I think it might have been a rumor or something that he's attached to one of the new X-Men books.
Interesting. Okay.
So I don't know, who would you? I mean, is there a Marvel writer that sticks out?
Oh, I'm not. I can't get Torunn Grumbeck out now, just because of some of the stories she shared. I can't get her out of my head. So I would love for her to be on Wolverine. I said, outside of Mary Jo Duffy on an ongoing Wolverine title, I can't think of another female writer that wrote Wolverine. And Mary Jo Duffy just did an issue here and there. It wasn't like an ongoing stint. But she can do it, man. She can do gritty. Anyway, that's just my choice. But I'm sure it's going to be Saladin, because she also mentioned Saladin Ahmed, and she got excited when she saw the name. She's
well, like, and I just want to see somebody have a direction for Wolverine. Benjamin Percy, look, I'm not going to get into it if he's a good writer or not, but his Wolverine, it just feels like a lot of stuff just keeps happening to Wolverine, and there's no really central thought about like who Wolverine is or why Wolverine is the best at what he does. He goes to an auction. There's problems with Maverick. It's kind of been all over the place. And I really think that there's a way to do a good Wolverine title that's about Wolverine. When you go back and read early, Claremont, Peter David, Larry Hama Wolverine, Larry Hama had a lot of stuff happen to Wolverine, but there was a great through line of like, why was this happening to him? What was it meaning for his character? So I'm really hoping somebody's got a good pitch about like who Wolverine is in this new post-Krakoa world. Hell, if I have a number one choice, it's actually Larry Hama. Like, if there's any of these books that I will totally give a pass to go full nostalgia and bring back somebody, every time they get Larry Hama back writing an X-Men Legends or like a mini
that Magic Board story,
I Wolverine 2020 during the Iron Man 2020, it's like pure fire. So like, come on, man. And he would do it. Why? Larry Hama loves Wolverine. So if there's one nostalgic choice I have, it's just let's have Larry Hama back.
Al Ewing on Wolverine, Immortal Wolverine, go crazy.
I mean,
you think he'll be Logan, or do you think he'll be Laura? Because we have another title we haven't talked about yet.
And Wolverine is on that main Uncanny cast, but we've seen that Marvel's kind of stepped back from having him on every book. They've really gotten away from doing that with almost every character, other than kind of Spider-Man. They're really stepping back from they're everywhere. So I do think we'll see him in one other book. It could be X-Force or it could be Wolverine. I think if it was going to be Lara, it would probably be called All New Wolverine again. I don't know. I think if they're going for full-on nostalgia branding, it's going to be Logan.
Okay. Speaking of potential female creators for X-Men, how about Amanda Connor? Would love to see her draw the entire team. Connor on X Factor, depending on the writer, might work. And again, Connor's not for everybody. Her art is not for everybody. I've seen people tear her art up left and right. But I mean, all of it is subjective anyway. If you could put Maverick on X-Force, he'd bring the gun. Oh, I like Maverick. I like that Weapon X period. So far, Sabretooth War feels more like it has more Sabretooth than Wolverine. Hopefully there's some Wolverine before. And you were mentioning something about Benjamin Percy's run, and I feel that in his run, perhaps a lot of that has to do with editorial mandate. No, we got to keep Wolverine in Krakoa. You can't have Adventures of Wolverine in the past. I feel like the closest we've gotten to that, and I don't know if you may disagree with this, is the X Lives and X Death of Wolverine. Right? Like that is the closest to let's go and explore Wolverine outside of this Krakoa timeline.
I mean, if by explore you mean ruin, if explore you mean right,
I'm not gonna have that.
If explore you mean, I'm sorry, I really try to keep it cute on these streams, but that was editors scrambling and Ben Percy being fast. That's all that there is to say about that series. Yeah, that's what I have to say. Look, I think Wolverine on Krakoa was Wolverine with a leash around his neck in a way, right? Like, how does Wolverine, who goes and kills who needs to be killed, operate in a world where the first rule is kill no human, right? Like, and so I think that both gave him a reason to exist, but it also kind of restrained him in a way. And like, here's the chance to see the leash off of Wolverine. So why is he out in the world? Why does it matter? Why is he going to be violent again? Like, let's see there being a good reason for that. Is he angry? Is it because of something that happened at the end of this? Is he hunting down extant members of Orcus? Is it something different? They've had a big plot point about all of the adamantium he's left lying around from all the times he's been resurrected. Are we going to follow up on that, or is it going to be fresh, right? So I think, and then coming out of the Sabretooth arc, Sabretooth's killing a lot of characters, some of whom are big characters that you know the names of that I will not spoil. Are we going to get them all back at the end of Krakoa, or are they going to be dead? Is Logan going to feel some kind of way about that? I think there's a lot of potential here.
I actually agree with Logan. Logan Wayne, that is. Wolverine was ruined the second they gave him his memories back. I think I've stressed the fact on the channel, I am not a fan of House of M. And that moment when he's like, I remember everything, I rolled my eyes and I said, oh God, this is not going to go well. And immediately after that, it was announced that it was going to be Wolverine Origins.
One of my favorite comics.
You are dead to me, Peter. That's another. We can talk about that.
An hour. I'm trying to get kicked off. I'm like, let's see how bold can I get?
I love that you have a difference of opinion. God, I hated that book so much.
I love that book. I remember sitting on my bed like as if I was a kid, although I was quite old, and like next day ordering every volume as I found it on Amazon to like catch up. It was in 2010.
You're talking about Daniel Way Wolverine Origins.
It's one of my favorite series.
Peter, what is wrong with you?
You know why? Because I actually never liked Wolverine not having memories. I was like, wouldn't it be so much interesting to see this historic person?
But they didn't do anything with it.
Yes, there was tons of stuff. We got to see him.
I'm not arguing with you right now.
We had an adventure with Bucky. He remembered everything. It was amazing. It was so cool.
Oh my God. He went after Condoleezza Rice in the first arc. That was his arch nemesis.
This is totally genuine. I'm not even like pretending for the sake of it that I like it. I genuinely
love that you like it.
Was
now we have
one day paying for same day shipping to get each next one into my house as fast as I could. This is one of those things where then I got on the internet and I was like, what do you mean people don't like the book? It's the best.
Oh, it's definitely one that I've actually heard it's 50-50 from, whenever I joke about it and I bring it up. Some people are like, what? You didn't like it? I loved it. Awesome. I love Steve Dillon, and I get why people like the book. It just wasn't for me. It wasn't my Wolverine. I like the whole mystery, And if you're, and we can talk about that later because this is going to open up another can of worms. So let's keep going. Yes, Wolverine.
All right.
Artist.
Here's another artist pick. Rip. Juan Jose Rip. Only if he's colored by Andrew Dahlhaus, who's brilliant. He did Wolverine, The Best There Is, back in 2011. One of my favorite Wolverine artists. And he just did some cool book for Marvel in the last year, which is escaping me, but love him on Wolverine.
I was trying to think of the artist that I really enjoyed, but I think he's gone over to DC now. He was actually on Wolverine for a while. Benjamin Percy. He has a Capullo art style. Like, he looked like a clone of Capullo. He was in the first 2 story arcs of Wolverine with the vampires. He told the Omega Red storyline.
They did look good. Those were some good looking comics. By the way, if people are not reading Weapon X-Men out right now, I thought it was going to be dumb. We really know I hate alternate reality stuff so much.
What is wrong with you? Those are the best.
Omar, you're going to love it. It is hilarious.
Oh, good.
It's such a good concept. It's so much fun.
Comic book again is always hilarious. I love it. And I'm here for it too. And at the end of the day, Pete knows I love him. So it doesn't matter that he's wrong.
And I love Omar even when I think his opinions are indefensible.
They're all defensive. All right, go ahead. What do you know what I'm talking about?
All right, moving along. Here we go.
Yes. Storm. Yes. Getting her own series. Do you think this is one of the minis, or do you think this is legit and ongoing?
It better be an ongoing. Storm let's sell her on her name. She's the biggest female hero at Marvel. I would argue even bigger than Black Widow, even after 15 years of Avengers movies. If Black Widow can have a title, if Wonder Woman can have a title, Storm can have a title, now's the time. I would absolutely have said Eve Ewing is my top pick for Storm. Now, can Eve Ewing write 3 books? Black Panther, Storm, and Exceptional X-Men? I don't know.
No, I thought Storm was...
Come on. Or just have it be Ewing, right? Because X-Men Red was pretty much a Storm solo title.
I was going to say, you can have Al Ewing on this and bring in the whole Arakko storyline. That would be cool. I'm good with that. Oh, and please correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't Black Panther canceled? Or is she still writing Black Panther? Eve Ewing.
I don't know. There's another issue out this week.
That's his name. Thank you so much. Twisted Kister Bogdanovich, that guy. Because I remember he sounded like Tom.
Are very strange.
What's that?
His line weights are very strange.
But he looks like that Capullo.
He does look like Capullo. Yeah, he's a Capullo.
I don't want to call him clone anymore because I feel like that's insulting. He is definitely inspired by Capullo. That's who it was. Thank you so much for that. Storm, I can kind of see Al Ewing continuing his storyline because I mean, he was building her up big. I wonder what version of Storm they're gonna go with. What look? What style? And for the love of God, this is something else we can argue about. Can we bring Forge back? Her one true love. Because I love Storm and Forge. I hate it when they married her off to Black Panther. How did you feel about that? Did you dig that?
I mean, I always like moving characters forward, even though I have nostalgia. I'm like, what's new? So I very rarely want to go back to a classic relationship. I very rarely want to repeat something. I always want to see something different. So do I like Storm and Forge? Yeah, I actually think it's really nuanced, but I like Storm and Black Panther, but you know what? That's 20 years old at this point. So I don't know that I need her to have a love interest. I don't know that I need it to be
I'm not saying she needs
T'Challa.
to.
I kind of like their standoffish, we're peers, sort of like marriage of convenience and arrangement status that we've seen a lot in the last 6 years from them. So I don't know, but I just, they teased in that Gail Simone story in Women of Marvel, like Storm at a podium, like reading from like a cell phone and like a suit with like this tiny little sad mohawk. And fans, I think, rightfully lashed back against that. I think we've seen really brilliant Storm designs. I think we've seen Storm designs influenced by or actually drawn by Black artists, which I don't think you always need to have an own voice on every single character. But I think for somebody as iconic as Storm, yeah, let's have some African-American and some Black artists draw her and bring in some interesting culture for other artists to then run with. And so Storm, like dressed in a suit with a tiny little sad floppy mohawk, I hope in a good way, in a positive way, that they heard the fans be like, that's not it. And are maybe rethinking the look a little bit.
Oh my God. Okay. Damn you. I'm sorry. That came out the wrong way. Because I actually had a freaking artist picked out. I was like, let's steal.
Storm just looked amazing in Al Ewing's Immortal Thor. Whoa.
Okay. Here's the thing. Like, I'm thinking who I would like to see draw Storm is Bilquis Evely. She's working in that Dark
Oh,
Horse
she's
book with
doing
Tom
that
King.
new Tom King book.
And I'm like, oh,
I
she's perfect. But then you mentioned something else that I thought, oh my God, Jamal Campbell on Storm? Remember how thick he made that girl in the Far Sector? And I'm
well,
being
I was
very
gonna
selfish
say
because I
N.K.
love a thick
Jemisin
Storm.
is
Woo.
I would just love that whole Far Sector creative team. I mean, if that would be a big get for Marvel, N.K. Jemisin is a brilliant Hugo and Nebula award-winning writer. Far Sector was amazing. I think she's my number one pick for Storm if we assume Eve Ewing is off the table because she's already writing.
Oh, if
other books.
I'm assuming that Al Ewing is off the table, sure, or Stephanie Williams. I like Stephanie Williams. But oh my gosh, Jamal Campbell. Now I can't get that out of my head. That art.
I need some drama on a Storm book. I don't. It just can't be cute. Like this is Storm is Marvel's Wonder Woman. Like I want high drama. I want an author and an artist who can bring that level of book.
I mean, that Far Sector Green Lantern. My goodness.
Yeah.
Just thick. Okay. What are we at? Where are we at? What do we got? One more?
Two more. No.
Interesting title.
Interesting logo pulled from the Phoenix Resurrection book from
Yes.
the Malibu Ultraverse.
I was when you showed me this, I thought, oh my God, what if it's Prime? No, not Prime. What was her name that became the Phoenix in that era of the Ultraverse?
Like Manta or one of them.
Yeah, it was. She was the new host, and the Phoenix is just. First of all, we've seen how ridiculous the Phoenix lore has gotten. Right, like we've seen how ridiculous it's gotten with the Avengers and the Host and the Retcon by Jason Aaron. Oh my God, Foxfire. Was that it? Foxfire. Yes. Thank you all so much. Tiger Eyes coming in. Oh, dude. This is a really interesting one because, yeah, I think obviously this is the one that's like, this is one of the ones that's going to be a mini series, I think. I know you and Oddfell, if Oddfell was here, she'd be fighting. No, this is an ongoing series. It's time that Rachel.
Talking about connections to Krakoa, I mean, Jean turned out to be kind of as big of a star of Krakoa.
Oh, she was huge.
Sinister. It's huge for her. She's Kieran Gillen, I think, is turned out to be one of the best Jean writers of all time. She was in key in so many of the books. And right now she's in a really interesting spot right now. They're not playing with the Phoenix Force, but they're playing with Jean as a Phoenix. Again, I really don't want to spoil current books, but she's about to have a miniseries under Kieran Gillen with X-Men Forever. She was a huge part of Immortal X-Men. She's going to be a big part of the finale here. And it's like, is it going to be Jean? Is it going to be Rachel? Is it going to be the Phoenix Force? What does that mean? Is Jean even going to be alive at the end of all of this? Are they going to put her back on the shelf? Is she going to just pilot the mutant race from the White Hot Room? I mean, there's a lot of intriguing stuff that could happen.
Or it's going to be Echo. Oh my God, they make it Echo. I don't know. I guess there are people that love Echo.
And also, not for nothing, for people who have read that original X-Men one-shot and are reading Weapon X-Men, Christos Gage right now is building this idea of the Phoenix Force and Phoenix as a sort of extra-dimensional force and a sort of kind of like how Exiles originally worked. So maybe this isn't even a literal Jean Grey Marvel 616 Phoenix book. Maybe this is like a Phoenix in the Multiverse book, right? This could be the new kind of Exiles book. It could be all Jeans. It could be a different Jean. So I think this is the one that is the biggest question mark for me, because based on where we are right now in the comics, there's so many places it could go.
Christos Gage is a guy was going to be one of my choices for either this or the next book. I'm just a big fan of that guy, and he never really got his star, right? Like he never he was always like, oh, that's the guy that when Dan Slott is being tired and lazy and needs a script finished, they call Christos Gage. But I mean, he gave us that phenomenal Avengers Initiative and Avengers Academy series.
Yeah, very
underrated. So that's a guy I would love to see.
You're gonna really love Weapon X-Men, but my point is,
to read it then.
Just I think it's a mistake to think about this as like a literal Jean Grey book. Jean Grey just walking around doing what she was doing in X-Men Red. I really think there's going to be like another tricky level to this. I think it's not what meets the eye.
Hey, I'm curious what you, okay, so you don't think it's Jean? Could it be Rachel?
I'm not saying it's not Jean. I'm just saying I just don't see them having it be a book about Jean wandering around leading an X-Men team. I think to have it be Phoenix,
like X-Men Red,
based on what's happening right now, there's just going to be something. There's got to be a twist.
I mean, when you bring up the multiverse, and I think that is an automatic turnoff for some people now, right? Like when we think of multiverse, because
this one right here, turn off.
Like, hear me out now. I still enjoy it because there's a lot of possibilities if it's done right. What is wrong with Curtis? Are you drunk, Curtis? I think it will be Gene Hackman. Rachel does have some Phoenix fire. Yes. I love that. I love that.
Oh, Kieran Gillen is using Rachel so well in Rise of the Powers of X right now, like as if she was made to be used this way. Really, really cool.
Although Hope Summers could still be a thing after Krakoa, maybe.
Yeah.
This is an interesting title. And then the next one, of course, raises another question is,
oh boy,
what an interesting title. NYX. So we've seen NYX, right? The story of X-23. Going out in gallery edition.
Everybody loves some child prostitution in their X-Men books.
Oh, stop it.
What? That's what it's about.
I know it is. It's got good artwork by Joshua Middleton, though. It's got good artwork by Joshua Middleton. New York X-Men, maybe? No, X-23. Maybe this is, I mean, we're going to have Kamala in here somewhere, right? Maybe this is the book.
I think it would be cool if this is like the X-Men of New York. I would love to see Iceman in this book. I would love to see Dazzler in this book. Make this, remember when there was like District X and it was about, and all of these books so far
this was the Lucas Bishop story, right? Like,
yeah, all of these books are very anchored in a place so far. So like maybe it's a little bit of a red herring. It probably will have Laura in it because why would you use NYX and not use X-23? It seems like sort of a gimme. But I really think it would be cool if this is a like X-Men in New York book and it uses some of the X-Men that really benefit from having a time and a place. And I really, really would love it if Iceman and Dazzler turn up as New York X-Men.
I think we need, I mean, it's the MCU, right? We need that corporate synergy. They need a place for somebody like Miss Marvel. This book makes sense.
Could be Academy X Kids and Miss Marvel.
I was going to say, it could be the young team. It could be,
yeah.
But then that Exceptional X-Men kind of looks like, so it could be the young, because oh my gosh, we have so many characters that were underutilized during the Krakoa era, and not because people forgot, it's just because there's so many freaking characters.
You got to wonder then, like, what's the hook, right? Every one of these books needs a hook. Just X-Men in New York is not a hook. So is it Laura? What's the hook then? Is it Laura and Sync, right? Laura and Sync got so popular during this era. Or is it kind of like Leah Williams' Exterminators, right? A really kind of irreverent X-Men book that's just like hyper violent and silly. That book really was a big hit with a lot of fans. Had Dazzler, had Tabitha in it, had X-23 in it. So I think there's a couple different ways they could take this. But I bet it's going to be really small and focused, either whether it's New York, whether it's Young X-Men, whether it's on Laura. Mm-hmm. I see this as it's going to be a really tight focus.
Dude, what is up? Cyclops is better than Wolverine. The man's name I hate saying, but I'm just glad to see you, man. How you been? I'm late, but whatever team Cyclops is on is the best team for obvious reasons. Guys, a Cyclops fan. Neil Young's X-Men. I love Phil Owens just going to the chat. Need younger X-Men and not your X-Men.
New young X-Men? New young X-Men.
New young X-Men. Could be.
You heard it here, folks. I'm placing my bet right now.
Stop.
New young X-Men.
They couldn't call it Fallen Angels, so it's the spiritual successor to the Fallen Angels. What is it that every Fallen Angel title is so bad?
How dare you? Bill the Lobster?
Okay, what? No, you can't even defend that nonsense.
I mean, Omar,
Yeah, okay,
it's been
even my
proven we have
childhood
very
goggles.
different tastes
No.
in X-Men books.
Yes,
Mary Jo Duffy, right?
yeah, it was Mary Jo Duffy.
Yeah.
No, not even my childhood goggles can. Oh, Fallen Angels was awful, dude. Both of them were bad. Yeah, this is interesting. All right, and that's the last one. I'd like to know what people think about NYX. So if it is a young team, who would you like to see write this book? Who haven't we mentioned? I'm going to say it. Chris Claremont.
Well,
I'm
here's
just
the
it's
thing.
just it's me.
Here's another book because I'm all caught up on my reading for my new releases posts. I read that X-Men Madripoor Nights first issue. I know sometimes when Claremont comes back with this
Claremont's hit and
flashbacky
miss, yeah.
stuff, it's kind of like lumpy. No, it really feels like the issue that comes directly after Uncanny X-Men
Really?
268. Yes. It's
Like
I was
that
shocked.
good.
I like double taked, like, is this really modern Claremont? Is this really happening? I think it's way better. And I always have a soft spot for his style of writing, but
Mhm.
I think he's there with a mission.
Okay, interesting. So who would you like to see? Like, if it's a young team, who would you like to see write a young team of X-Men?
Trying to think of anybody who I
Now,
like
this would
really
be a
like.
Rainbow Rowell book. I'm with Hayden.
Yeah, Rainbow Rowell would be fantastic on this, but I'm trying to think of who's written some of the younger, like, Spider people
Or
recently.
Christos
that has been
Cage.
good. Yeah, Gage. I mean, but
you got
I don't know. Cody
younger-
Ziegler, but he's going to be writing Deadpool, so he might not be. And he's still
Was it?
writing Miles right now. Cody Ziegler.
Cody Ziegler's writing. Yeah, he's writing Deadpool.
But I want somebody with that energy. I think if it's going to be like a young book in New York, we can't have somebody who's like in their 50s or 60s. Not that they can't write young characters, but like I don't want another Mark Waid on the Champion situation. Like, let's get somebody who like has like a finger on the pulse of something that feels a little current.
Oh my gosh, you young people in the pulse that you need to have it on something current. Leave.
Aren't I older
paycheck.
than you? We're ancient. Omar and I are not the young people you need piloting.
No, we're not at all. Elon, sorry about my brash super chat. Dude, you're fine. Torun Grombeck rubs up on me too, and it happens, buddy. We're good. Really wish they give Claremont a series of stories that set back in his run. Dude, I'm just ready for new stories by Claremont. That I love what Peter said, that Madripoor Nights and the Extreme X-Men, cool. But give me some new stuff, Claremont. I know it's in there. And I'm here for it. He needs a book. Sure, let's give him this.
It's kind of wild to me that no artist has convinced him to do a creator-owned book, like, and take it to Dark Horse or Boom or what. I mean, it's Chris Claremont. It's instant sales. It's just weird to me that none of these new folks, these Tom Kings or whatever, haven't like Tom Taylor haven't tapped him on the shoulder and be like, this is the time to, Claremont's written some cool stuff on his own. But anyway, it's a totally other, somebody who's kind of a dark horse for this one. I'm trying to think of her name, who just wrote Spider-Gwen Smash. Her name is Melissa Flores. And Spider-Gwen Smash is actually secretly a Dazzler book. And so, and it's,
of course.
It's kind of like funny, youthful. It's got like a fun electric energy to it. I'm not saying she's the best Marvel writer ever, but like talking about the kind of person who's got the right vibe, who's already kind of writing a book that's like feels young, is about music, is about like a band on tour. That to me is the right energy for NYX.
So somebody young who's got
not young, just somebody who's like already writing characters who feel like they're in a place, characters who don't feel like they're all speaking in the same voice.
Claremont hasn't done that. Claremont's good for that.
I mean, talking about another, Dark Horse, because I think there's going to be a series with somebody obscure on the creative team because they can do it. I'm going to do badly on the name, but I love their writing so much. Murawa Ayodele, who wrote I Am Iron Man last year with his artist partner Dotun Okande. I Am Iron Man was so like cool
Well,
and
that was the story you were
weird
telling
and
us about, right?
yeah,
That's
I just want somebody who's got like a vibe, you know, or the person who's writing White Widow right now. There's a book with a really great specific voice. Sarah Gailey. She's a novel author, but I love her White Widow. It feels specific. This is what I mean. I'm not saying the person's got to be in their 20s, but I want somebody who can do really specific character voices, who can convince me that these characters are like not just the same voice that every single X-Men uses. So there's my top 3. You got 3 from me right there that I think would be cool dark horse choices for this book.
Claremont, I think, is the one writer that does get paid from Marvel. I don't know how much, right? To just kind of be a, I don't even know what they call it, honestly. Alyssa Wong on NYX might work. If they're putting Kamala in here, have Iman Vellani.
She's so good. Like, she's a really good writer. Have you read her Ms. Marvel series yet?
I just finished it Thursday. There was one of the birthday books that I read because it comes out this week, so I wanted to make sure I was caught up. Yeah, I did.
It's fun. I think she's got a natural voice. She's writing a second volume right now.
Wait. But she had a co-writer in that first volume.
Not on the second volume that came out last week or comes out next week. She's solo.
Oh, she's doing it solo?
Yeah.
Well, she's got like a career, doesn't she? Like in movies and TV shows.
Oh, just to write one comic book.
Okay. I don't know. Have you read?
I don't know.
I've tried.
She's a huge comic book nerd. She's like gets in fights with Kevin Feige about Silver Surfer.
Okay. Well, okay. I don't want to spoil how I think. I did like it. I thought it was fun. But like I said, I thought that she had a co-writer. But you're saying that in her second volume, she doesn't have a co-writer.
There's another volume going on right now that will be wrapped up by the time all this stuff launches. It's called Ms. Marvel Mutant Menace. And if you look at the credit on Marvel, oh no, she does have a co-writer. Originally, she didn't. But now they have Sabir Per.
And you know me. I'm not hating on that young lady. I think it is freaking wonderful that you read the comics, you love the comics, you cosplayed as Miss Marvel, you got cast to be in the Miss Marvel show, and now you're writing said comic. That to me is like the American dream. Like doing like how it all comes full circle. That is beautiful. I love that story. But
again, this whole initiative is about media synergy. So, like, would I be surprised to see them get an actor or like a screenwriter or somebody that kind of ties into the MCU in some way in some of these books? I would not be surprised.
She also loves Grant Morrison's X-Men. Okay.
She's a major nerd, y'all. Omar's got to get an interview with her now that she's a Marvel writer. Let's go.
Now that she's a writer, I'll get an interview with her, of course. Yes. Actually, that would be fun. She strikes me as somebody fun to talk to because I've seen like the behind the scenes of Miss Marvel, and she's so kind of reminds me of my youngest daughter, just adorable. There are few words and so little plot in modern comics. Vianney could do 10 titles a month. Now you can get like ChatGPT to write your scripts, though. Hugh Jackman writing Wolverine confirmed.
Oh my God! What could you imagine if they had like Ryan Reynolds co-write Wolverine?
We've seen like that before. We've seen. Come on, how many times have we seen some actor and actress come in and say, "I can write a comic," just like rock stars are doing it, you know? And
often it's bad, especially when it's a member of the Black Eyed Peas. But you know,
okay, I wasn't gonna call anybody out, but it more times than not, it doesn't work. Just because someone's funny on screen or somebody, you know. This is a different medium. Like a lot of it doesn't translate well into comic books. And I'm sure, I don't know, Ryan Reynolds could tell a good comic book. But we've seen that a lot of times, and oof.
And I also think too, when you see a comic writer start to do more screenwriting and then they come in back and do comics as well, they change. Like I feel like Brian Edward Hill, I feel like you could see this. I really loved him as a comic author for a while. Then he went and did a lot of screen work, and he's back, and his comics don't move the same as they used to. So it's just really interesting to me. I think once people have written for screen, you see it with a lot of folks who are screenwriters, even Nicole Perlman, who wrote the first Guardians movie, and then she came and did a Gamora miniseries. I just think screenwriters have a very different pace than a dedicated comics writer. And it's always interesting to me when somebody, I mean, talk about somebody who went away and did screen work and then came back and is still a really solid comics writer. I would say Kelly Sue DeConnick, who went off and did some writer's room stuff and then came back and did Historia. But it's really interesting how it changes some writers.
I thought you went with Brian K. Vaughan when he chose.
Oh no, but that's another good.
I mean, he tried to do that whole Lost thing, right? And then realized none of these people know how this show is going to end. I'm not for Hollywood. But we have seen it where actors come in and write a story and co-write a story with somebody, a ghostwriter probably. And it's not so good. But then it works sometimes. I'm not saying every time. It does work sometimes. Me manifesting Garth Ennis coming back to Marvel one day. He is writing Nick Fury with Frank Castle, Punisher.
Yeah.
And I believe it's a Max title. I'd like to see Joe Kelly and Ed McGuinness X-Force. Are there only 3 titles? There are 9 titles.
I didn't put them all on with slide very unhelpfully, but we did go through all 9.
So we have all 3 that have been, these are the only 3 that have been announced with their creative teams. And then we were having fun trying to guess who the team members would be and who would be the creative team on these books. So we have 9 titles in total. Some of them will probably end up like miniseries, I think. Some of them might be ongoing series. I got yelled at by Peter when I dare mention that Storm might be a miniseries.
I just think now's the time, y'all. They need to figure out how Storm can carry an ongoing solo book. It's like, especially with MCU X-Men coming up, I think, no joking, no kidding, facetiousness aside, I think this is the chance for Marvel to redefine a little bit the expectations of what the main X books are and what are expected to be around and how we think of characters, because there's going to be a big influx of new fans, not only from the cartoon, not only from the relaunch, but from the MCU impending. And so I really do think they're going to redefine some of our expectations of what is an X-Men book, what should an X-Men book look like, sound like, what should the cast members be. And I think that's the time to really establish different characters or different titles that are going to be mainstays. So it might be surprising which of these books stick around and which of them don't.
So I am going to start a poll because people really liked it. So if you're watching this live right now, I want, because I'm asked Peter the same thing. What is the, what are the 3 that we know? Because we know we know the creative team and we know some of the characters are going to be appearing on the team. So out of the 3 teams, what is the one that you are most anticipating to get? And just wait till I ask the poll. X-Men book are you most excited for? Peter, lead the charge.
I mean, Gail Simone, come on.
As
much as I love Carmen Carnero, Gail Simone writing Uncanny X-Men is a pretty big deal. And I think Gail has proven time and again how great she is on team titles. I think it's an easy winner for me. All
right. I have started the poll. I'll leave it up for a few minutes. So if you're watching this later, I'm sorry, it doesn't let you vote. But if you're watching it now, if you're on your phone or your laptop, you can buy, you can just go to the stream and it should pop up. Like it should just pop up. There it is. Yeah.
What about you, Omar? What is your top
come
one?
on. Are you kidding me? Gail Simone? Yes. She's funny. She can do dark. She can do, she's one of these writers that stays in characters. Like I saw a lot of bashing of her Red Sonja and I don't know why, because I enjoyed it. And people were like, this isn't Red Sonja. And then I went back and read the Roy Thomas and Fred Thorne stuff. And I thought, I think she was a little more risky than Roy because this was a Marvel comic. And if maybe that's what they're comparing it to, I don't know. But I thought her Red Sonja was phenomenal and she had that voice. So yeah, it's Uncanny X-Men. Her writing Wolverine, Rogue, and Gambit. Sure, Nightcrawler's a plus and Jubilee, whatever. But those 3, and we're not done with the entire team. Absolutely, I'm excited for that. You said it.
And also, I want to see a good run on Rogue. I feel like she's been super wasted, even though in all of Krakoa, even though she's had some plum spotlights on a lot of teams. Like nothing really happened with her, except until Stephanie Phillips wrote her briefly and like her relationship to Destiny. That's the first time it felt like specific to Rogue. So I just think Gail Simone is somebody, she's not picking Rogue for her team by mistake. I think Gail Simone has a plan. By the way, we never mentioned Stephanie Phillips in any of these titles. I think 80% odds.
We did.
Did we?
Oh,
well, I think there's high odds Stephanie Phillips is on one of the 6 titles. Strong.
I think it was NY.
No, I thought you said Stephanie Williams. Different.
Oh no,
writer.
I did. I'm sorry. Yes, you're right. Damn it. This is going to be another case of Tom Taylor and Tom King. Damn it. Thank you. Omar, you should have added
very smart writer.
None of these options. Okay, don't vote if you're not excited for any of them.
Or maybe they're excited about one of the other 6 titles. Maybe they're big NYX fans, right?
Mm-hmm. Omar votes for Wolverine. I didn't even vote for Wolverine. I voted for Uncanny. Gail Simone. Quit being sexist. Josh, go and vote. For my money, Crushing Crisis is the single most important personality in online X community. Look at this. I owe so much to him. But how are we looking at Uncanny X-Men and thinking they're going for redefine? You want to explain that?
Well, first of all, I'm a mere footnote in the Uncanny X-Men community.
Stop it.
But the thing, I mean, think Jay and Miles, Battle of the Atom, Cerebrocast. I mean, there are titans of X-Men fans. But
stop it. Like, just take the compliment and answer.
No, I'm just saying, but what really matters is creating a positive community, even though we're not positive about the books. And in that, I'm willing to be credited if that's what I do. Here's the thing. I think it's a very standard looking cast. I don't think I've ever seen Gail Simone come onto a title and just play the hits. I mean, we haven't really talked about Gail Simone's Wonder Woman. Gail Simone does not. She might play the hits in that she gets the character more right than anybody previously got the character. But I don't. Birds of Prey, Wonder Woman, even Red Sonja, Secret Six, Batgirl. Gail Simone does not come into a title and just deliver the obvious. So I think, yes, it's not a redefinition of what the Uncanny X-Men is or could be. It's a very familiar looking team in very familiar looking uniforms, but. Mm-hmm. Even more than Jed MacKay, who I am addicted to, put it right into my veins. I love his Avengers more so than anybody else I've seen talking about it. I think I love it the most out of everybody. But I'm really excited to see what Gail brings to X-Men. I think Gail Simone just is the right voice to do something a little bit different, a little bit nuanced. I think it's going to be good.
Mm-hmm. I can see that. This is a Uncanny X-Men is the safest, as I like most of the characters there, and Gail is the writer I'm most familiar with. But I'm interested in all of them. Want Storm to be great, and want to see where Laura ends up. And this is a question for anybody that's not excited. I'm curious why Roberto's not excited. I'll just buy number ones, but I have no faith in this reboot. Might read it digitally. Now everybody's comes from a different place when it comes to reboots. You get tired of it, and you're like, we've seen this before. I feel like with this reboot, what's interesting is that they are literally giving us what they think we want when it comes to at least the lineup of Uncanny and the outfits. Because, like I mentioned before, that pendulum, they went too far to the right with the pendulum and hit that, okay, Krakoa is this big giant orgy. I don't like none of it. Bring it back. Bring it back. You know what I mean, Peter. You've seen people online talk about this.
I mean,
garbage. It's garbage. I don't want that.
I've got my opinions.
Okay. Yeah. But you know what I mean. I know you've seen it. I've seen it. It's ridiculous. And that's all. If that's all people get out of Krakoa, then I don't think reading is for them.
There's a huge group of. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say. And then what they're doing is they're swinging it back to the left and like, well, here you go. Here's your classic '90s X-Men. You've got a cartoon coming out. Happy now? The first page is going to be them playing baseball. So I'm always curious what people aren't not necessarily Roberto, what people are not necessarily happy with. Could be the creative teams too. Now, what were you saying though?
I think I read a lot of comics, y'all. I mean, my goal usually every year is to read 4,000 comics a year. I don't always get there. So I am maybe a little bit less precious about some comics than others. It's hard for me to take that preciousness away from my favorite stuff like Wonder Woman. I'm an asshole about Wonder Woman. I have a certain way that I think Wonder Woman ought to be. When somebody doesn't do it, I get very angry. But with X-Men, I think in Krakoa, I think some people saw, everybody's alive, they don't die, that's not X-Men. They are separatists from mutants, that's not X-Men. They're forgiving Apocalypse, that's not X-Men. And they got so hung up on some of these things that to them were the signposts of that is or is not X-Men, that I think they missed the opportunity to see how nuanced and interesting the stories were. Now I think, as you said, there's a pendulum swing, and we're going to get the same thing from a different group of people, of whom I kind of became one of. When I'm like, Krakoa is the way X-Men should be. I'm never going to read a hated and feared X-Men book again. I don't ever want to see it about them being a minority metaphor and about how they're getting hate crimes in every issue. Screw that. I do feel that way. And so I think seeing them kind of framed in this way, they're on the run, they're scattered. I have that rising anxiety of like, this is going to suck. I'm not going to like it. But it's by really talented people. It's by people who are not coming to these X-Men comics to write bad X-Men comics. I don't think any of these 6 creators would come on a comic if they were being told, do the thing that happened in 1991. That's just not who these people are. And so I have to choose to be excited, because I have to think, you don't get Gail Simone, Jed McKay, Eve Ewing, Dr. Eve Ewing in a writer's room to talk about this stuff if they're just going to do something boring that's going to be offensive to me as a fan of Krakoa. Let's not forget, Gail Simone originated the concept of women in refrigerators, okay? She's not going to come onto a book about a minority metaphor and totally throw everything about Krakoa in the garbage. It's just not within the realm of possibility. So the pendulum swings in either direction. People get offended in every direction that it swings. I try to stay in the middle as much as possible and just say, let's root for every comic to be good.
Yeah. And I think there's a big difference between that and then lying to yourself that every comic is good. Which we
right,
don't,
I'm not saying, because we know that I don't think every comic is good. I'm rooting for every comic.
Storylines and so especially like just during this stream, I found some things out about you. I'm shocked, but we can do that another day.
We can do it another day.
I think, I mean, Krakoa as a whole, I thought was an amazing idea. I was so happy to read X-Men comics again weekly. It was so nice. And Krakoa at the beginning had a lot of things going for it. And I think once Jonathan Hickman left, a lot of people thought, oh, this is going to go to crap. They're going to cash it in, and they're going to keep making these crappy stories. Even the guy doesn't even want to do it anymore. But I mean, I remember talking to Hickman about that, and he said he doesn't like doing monthly titles. He likes big event things, and they were paying him to do something with no soul.
Like, he knows what Marvel's paying him and the kind of numbers he's got to sell to be that guy. And like being on a monthly X-Men book, unfortunately, doesn't do that when you get to issue 30. And he knows that. He's self-aware about that.
And yeah, I mean, he was just honest about it, right? He's like, they pay me too much to be doing a monthly, but he is doing Ultimate Spider-Man. So, and it's doing really well.
That's a seismic main title leading a line, but so is X-Men. So, will he last more than 20 minutes? 20 issues
too.
Yeah. But I think something interesting came out of you saying that, and I think came out of the chat as well. Not everybody has the time or the money or the interest to read 9 books in a line. And so I think whatever book gets elevated as the center book kind of becomes the lightning rod for, is this good, right? And I think Jerry Duggan's X-Men didn't have enough of the plot and the nuance of what was going on in Krakoa. I'm not saying it was bad. I'm just saying it was really just one puzzle piece. And I think people got really fixated on that. And then they saw all these miniseries come out and they're like, Krakoa's not even good anymore. Hickman's not even in control anymore. But as somebody read all the books, Krakoa got better in a lot of ways once Hickman left, because there was no obvious center stage book that was only driving the plot, and everybody kind of had a piece of the plot. Immortal X-Men and X-Men Red are 2 of the best X-Men books that were ever written, and there's so many cool miniseries in there kind of fleshing out different parts of Krakoa. I do think people are going to look at it much more fondly in hindsight as it gets recollected, as the trades are out, as it's all on Marvel Unlimited, and there's not this need to like keep up with it every month. I think people are going to see the shape of it that a relatively small number of fans saw, not because we're any smarter, but because we had the patience to read all these damn books. And I think that hurt Krakoa. I think ultimately, if there was one thing Hickman was right about that we should have stuck with, it should have been 6 ongoing titles and 2 like swing titles with brief runs, and they should have kept it more compacted. I think the failure of Krakoa was not the storyline. I don't think it was the creators. I think the editors. I'm kind of happy we have Brevoort now. I don't think Jordan D. White got it right. I don't know if that was him himself, if that was Marvel pushing on him to put out more books and more miniseries. But I think the publishing
Well, it's got to be hard if
strategy,
it's selling, right? If something is
yeah,
selling,
but you didn't need to do
do you-
every one of those friggin' miniseries for the 24 months. We've had 24 months of miniseries. And I just think that's a failure of editing, not a failure of creative.
Magneto's in the X-Men there, but Krakoa killed it for me. It'll take a while to convince me again. This is a really interesting comment, Danny, because we've seen Magneto in the X-Men before. And I wonder if we had the internet back then with issue 200 dropping, if people would have been like, hashtag not my X-Men. Like, but oh my God, yeah. I mean, I did it back in the day. I'm like, you know, the one that actually pissed me off, Peter, I don't think we've ever talked about this, was allowing Sabretooth to join the X-Men. I hated it. I remember when they were like, Sabretooth will be joining the X-Men. There was an article written. I think it was in the Hero magazine. It wasn't Wizard, but I was like, how? This guy's a child killer. Like, we can't let people that kill kids join the X-Men. Dude, if the internet was around back then, I would have been one of these guys. Hashtag not my X-Men. But then I read the stories that he was in. And then there was the beautiful like speech it was written by Fabian Nicieza, Professor X, talking about forgiveness. And I was like, you know, this actually freaking works and I hate it. Just like Magneto with the X-Men and the New Mutants. He wasn't the best leader, but I think that was part of the plot.
How do you like have Mystique, especially after everything she did from like 2005 to 2018? How do you then trust Mystique and put her on the Quiet Council? But sometimes you gotta just.
Well, we have Apocalypse wearing a business suit.
You gotta just have some suspension of disbelief. Look, and I'm somebody who loves continuity. I don't even like DC because I think their continuity is BS, and I don't think anybody there actually cares about continuity. So it's hard for me to care about their comics. So you're talking about somebody who really remembers every story, but you gotta just give that a chance. You gotta just see what happens. You gotta see if the story justifies the choice. If the story's bad, if it's Fallen Angels and it doesn't justify the choice, okay, let's all gang up on them. But if the story's good, it justifies a lot.
Or Children of the Atom. I don't know what I hate it worse.
If you want to see me get angry about an X-Men book, go watch our This Week in X show with Faria and I screaming about how much we hated Children of the Atom.
And it had good artwork. I loved. Was it Bernard?
We were like offended that it existed.
Oh my goodness. X-Men did go to crap once Hickman left. Pretty sure Hickman was feeding you a PC. He didn't have to. It was just me and him.
And you know, I wanted to say, like, I'm not trying to like gaslight y'all that like Krakoa is the best thing and you're crazy for not liking it. Ryan Higgins, who runs a really great comic shop, Comic Conspiracy in California, I've been there. I bought books from him. He's really fun to follow online, and he has different opinions than the rest of us, but he also backs up with sales data. And he's like, all of my longtime X-Men subscribers kind of faded away. They didn't understand what books to buy, why they should be buying them, what the X-Men were like doing or were about. And I think that really goes like for all the people who are not a buy every book person, Krakoa kind of crumbled because it stopped making sense unless you're reading 6, 7, 8 books a month. So I respect all of you who are like, not my X-Men, or I fell off, or it sucked after X-Men. I get it. I totally get it. I'm here to tell you, somebody who read every title, it was actually a lot better than a lot of people are giving it credit for. But we'll adjudicate that in a year or two when the omnibuses start hitting.
When I worked at the comic shop, it was in the 90s, and I was there for 4 years, and I loved that job. But I would get people coming in there going, cancel my Punisher. They made him an angel. This is the stupidest thing they've ever done with Punisher.
I mean, talking about one of the most out there plot lines of all time.
Okay, it's a horrible storyline. But I would get that, like, and then the same people would come back later on. Not all of them. Some of them stuck to their guns. Like, I'm never buying another Punisher comic. Some of them, and I'm just using that one as an example. Clone Saga. Oh my God. The same people would come back and be like, can you add Amazing Spider-Man back to my pull list, please? I know we're going through the Clone Saga here, but I can't miss an issue. Bro, Batman gets killed, Robin's killed all the time. What? Guys, we're comparing like Sabretooth to Batman? Really?
Yeah, same character. Totally the same. Sabretooth and Batman.
Shut up. Didn't Wolverine kill kids?
Yes,
I don't
frequently.
think so, but that wasn't at
He
that
killed
time.
his own spoilers.
No, I'm not stopping you from spoilers. I don't give a crap about that story.
Yeah,
You know how I feel about that story. At that time, no, we just knew that he had a past, and I'm sure he did shady stuff in the past. We never had a story where he had done anything. It wasn't until later that we got to see some of the stuff.
I guess I just kind of reject this idea that everybody that's on a team that is called X-Men in the universe, which a lot of times they don't have a name. Sometimes they're just mutants working together. Has to be like this like moral paragon. This is not the Avengers, okay? Like it's not your mommy's cops that roll out and arrest people. Like this is the X-Men. They have no such requirement. So, I mean, Bishop's back. Bishop has done genocide against billions and billions of people across
you talk about
thousands of different alternate futures, and y'all still like Bishop. As do I.
God, okay? I know
Bishop.
People love
I'm in the middle of this right now. We just got done reading the Bishop original miniseries. Bishop, his whole thing was like, I killed every one of those people who came from the future.
Oh, you're talking about the one
present.
with the Shard
and Mountjoy. Yeah, we just finished reading it the other day.
That's a great.
He doesn't kill Mountjoy. Spoilers.
Carlos Pacheco.
So good. But Bishop was a killer. He was a killer, and he is an X-Man. So I just reject this idea that every X-Men has to be. I mean, Professor X is the worst. Magneto. If you're reading Resurrection of Magneto, I don't think it's spoiling anything to say that the second issue deals with just how many thousands, if not millions of people Magneto has been directly or indirectly responsible for the death of.
Well, I mean, yeah, that comes all the time. We can't let go of the submarine. Replace Brevoort with Claremont as Siri. I've heard this before, and I always think about that. Like Claremont as an editor, how would that work? Would he Claremont every one of the titles, and would I be okay with that? Because I mean, I love Claremont. He's my favorite writer of all time. But I can also acknowledge when he wrote really bad stuff. I think you're a fan of his Excalibur, not Volume 1, but his Excalibur Volume 3. And I like aspects of it, but there were some really bad
editor stuff. Or to be a head of X, you've got to swim in the continuity because that's your job, right?
That's what he does.
And Claremont has shown that he doesn't care about that. Like people ask him if he liked Hoxpox or if he liked this or that. He's like, that's not my X-Men. My X-Men is my X-Men, the end. Hickman, for as much as you might have criticism of him, Hickman is like a comic encyclopedia. He knows what happened and what issue and why. I remember when Hoxpox was coming up and he's like, I'm going to have good mutants and bad mutants like Mr. Sinister. And everybody in the comments was like, Mr. Sinister's not a mutant. And I believe his quote was, watch me work. Like Hickman is good at that. And to be the head of X or to be the editor of X, Jordan D. White, who I cannot say very many positive things about as an X-Men editor, great Deadpool editor, Jordan D. White knows his X-Men back to front. He really, really does. Whether or not I enjoy him as an editor is immaterial to that. So to say that X-Men should be a head of X or an editor, he would have to choose to care about all of the X-Men that have happened in the 20 years since he last wrote a main X-Men title. And I don't think he does.
You know, he said he doesn't. And every once in a while when I have him on and interviewing him, he'll slip and talk about a storyline. And it's hilarious. And I talked to his son about this. He's like, yeah, he hates Hickman.
Oh, no.
But he still reads it, is what he told me. And it's the curse of X, right? I mean, Claremont suffers it too. Omar, I bet Hickman was being professional. Definitely didn't want to burn any bridges. Thank God, because now Ultimate Spider-Man is great. And it is. I agree. Oh, my God, it's so good. I dig it. Krakoa was dope. You heard it here first. 317-24. I love it. I love it. And if you like Krakoa, yeah, I'm sure they'll go back and revisit that era. I mean, it's not, I don't think they'll do away with it. Omar and Peter, I have stuck to the end of Krakoa era, and it's just got consistently, progressively worse. I expected every read to be horrible and rarely ever get. Though, why are you still reading it? Don't do that to yourself. And I'm sorry, I actually really like X-Men Red and Immortal X-Men. Those two are my favorite titles. Cy Spurrier.
Oh, that Uncanny Spider-Man book was so good.
What is the last thing that it was that the last one that it morphed into?
That was the last one. It went
okay. I haven't read that one yet.
Way of X to Legion of X.
Way of X and Legion of X.
Yeah,
those were so fun. But you have to like Cy Spurrier storytelling, and it's not for everybody.
But I mean, I like that Alpha Flight miniseries. I think Rise of the Powers of X right now is so cool.
Alpha Flight by
there's a lot of hidden gems in there.
That was that the Alpha Flight by Prison?
Yeah.
Okay. Claremont as editor sounds interesting. So I don't know. I don't know if that would work or not. I'd be interesting though to see him tackle it. Tom Taylor as writer of X Factor. I don't know if it's already been mentioned here, but it was circulating on Twitter. That's interesting. He's leaving Nightwing. I wonder if he's leaving DC.
Would he leave DC? He's had such a profitable relationship with DC, but he used to be a Marvel guy too.
Hey, money talks. Money talks, Peter. I believe Claremont.
I always said I wanted Marvel to back up a dump truck of money to James Tynion's house, but I don't know if there's a big enough dump truck of money anymore.
Not with that series, dude. Not with that series.
Yeah.
What is it? Netflix, I think they paid an arm and a leg. He's doing fine.
Oh yeah, he's probably
fine.
The most profitable creator in comics right now after Mark Miller.
X-Men Red was, I feel, the exception to the mediocrity that was the end of Krakoa.
We'll talk about mediocrity after we've got 6 months of these new titles, y'all. We'll
don't curse it. We're just at the beginning, man. Duggan Cable is the supreme. I mean, no, there were some really good ones. Like Hellions was so fun.
Hellions is amazing. I mean, talk about a book that you never thought would exist. That is one of the best X-Men books of all time. Hellions.
How is that book so funny and fun
and so messed up?
Now, okay, I get it. There are people that don't like Sassy Sinister. It's not for you. You like your Sinister, classic Sinister.
But Nanny.
Oh, Nanny and Orphan. Nanny, every time she appears with Sinister is just the best. And Sinister, like I genuinely dropped my drink when I was drinking a beer and reading Hellions.
Duggan
starts
Cable
talking in the room, and Sinister's like, you're still here? You creep me out.
But yeah, that Duggan Cable book, I went back to my ratings of like all of the issues because I rate every issue as I go and I have a huge database. I think my number one book of all of Hawks, Pox, Docs, whatever, Krakoa is Duggan's Cable.
Really?
I'm looking at my averages right now. It's Immortal X-Men, then X-Men Red, then Cable is my top 3. Then Wave X, then Aliens. There you go.
Oh, I like this. You want Peter Tomasi to do a father, son, Scott, and Nathan Summers. Oh, and you throw Grandpa Corsair in there? Oh my God, yes.
How about we get a grandson book? What if X-Force was Corsair and Cable?
That would be interesting because I mean, the only time they kind of did anything like no, that wasn't even that Cable though. So I don't know if that. Yeah, I would love it. I'm here for that. I'm not saying the new ones will be good though. X of Swords. I remember thinking, man, I'm digging half of this, and the other half, what the hell is this? I can't remember. Did you like X of Swords?
I broadly liked it. I think it got a little too overlong, and it kind of took the heat and the focus off of the actual swords part of it. But there's a lot of good issues in there. That's how we started the show. I think Freya and Tyler and Harry and I started This Week in X because we wanted to catch up. None of us had been reading Krakoa every month, and we saw X of Swords coming up, and it was kind of like in the middle of the pandemic, and we're like, hey, like let's get together and enjoy this book. This would be a nice way to spend time together while we're all in lockdown in our houses, and that's how we started doing the show. What
a fun, interesting, evolving time for X-Men. Yeah, I remember reading that book and I was like, I am digging half of this. And then some of these matches just don't make any sense. They're so stupid. And I'm like, I remember thinking, they're too Excalibur Alan Davis for me. And beyond Alan Davis ridiculousness of Excalibur era. You leave Cy Spurrier alone. We haven't focused on the Flash and Constantine or Teen, depending on where you're from. And he needs no distractions. Well, he's still writing X-Men. Where are these from the ashes on these? Yeah,
get on it, Omar. Start mapping.
How has no one asked that already? Love it. Thank you, buddy. Hellions, X-Men, X-Men Red, Sabretooth. Actually, Sabretooth was good. I liked it. And Sabretooth in the Exiles, I don't know how you felt, but I dug that too.
I think Sabretooth in the Exiles was even better. I'm looking at my averages. It's in my top 10.
It would be interesting to go back and look at each series and, Maybe
we need to rank every Krakoa series,
including the miniseries.
Yeah,
and I'm gonna throw in that Fantastic Four.
There's 50 plus titles.
God. Nugget and Noto created magic together, and I was all about Cable's book. Ron V writing Immortal Starjammers. Need an ongoing Starjammers. Will Capullo be on these titles? Rumor is that, not rumor, he has been showing a lot of artwork of Wolverine. But he has also stated in the past that he is done doing monthly series. He just can't do it, and he's getting older. I don't know if that means he'll be on for 6 issues, or God forbid Wolverine's a miniseries, but according to Peter, who yelled at me, no, that's impossible. They would never do that. Make X-Force about the Summers family, healing without Scott's annoying. Corsair, Alex, Cable, Hope, Rachel, and don't forget Vulcan, and you throw in Adam X the Extreme just to confuse everybody. Hell yes.
I better see some Adam X in these new books. You hear me? X Office, you hear me, report? Adam X.
I better see Fabian Iciesa adding him on X-Force and telling his story. Hellions was the best Krakoa book. I was rereading X-Force Omni Volume 1 the other day. Cable has become so much more of an enjoyable character. Oh my gosh. He was so one-dimensional back then. But that's not saying much considering all Liefeld's input at the beginning. I mean, he was the plotter, right? And then once the plotter left the book, they were able to explore the character more. And they were able to show heart with the character and connections. And I think the idea was nice. I actually liked the Drunk Nanny was bitch. I have not enjoyed a great X-Men run since it's been that long. Wow. It's Constantine wherever you're from. No, Phil, not in America. It's Constantine. We don't bow to no queen. I know you didn't get a lot of views, but I loved your YouTube show. Oh, look at that, Peter. And enjoyed.
I was just saying, actually, Peter, that was not a lack of views thing. I think for somebody to go, we went so in depth. We talked about every thematic thing that was going on in a literary analysis way. I think for that to get 400 or 500 views on a video about a single issue of a comic book was respectable. We honestly stopped doing it because after the lockdowns listed, we all had to be out of our houses more. There's this big mythology that we fell out or that whatever we hated.
Oh, you got the scoop here at Near Mint Condition. I told everybody what really happened.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, we kind of just ran out of time. Life moved on.
I am going to end the poll in 1 more minute. So if you haven't voted, please go and vote. Tier Maker. Yes, you totally need to rank every one of the 50 titles.
Oh my God. Could you imagine?
No,
I would need to have one of those
I don't even want to revisit some of those titles.
Only
I don't even want to revisit some of those titles. God forbid if they ever start doing omnis and doing these in chronological orders by titles, I'm going to reread them already. Una de las mejores cosas de Krakoa fue The New Mutants by Vida Ayala. Simplemente hermoso. Top 3 etapas de The New Mutants. Really? That's...
For a while, I remember Rod Rice was on art.
How long? Oh, Rod Reyes is so good. He reminded me of that Bill Sienkiewicz, Phil Noto mix.
He was watching our show, and he would send us comments after the show about our interpretation of his art, which was really funny. He was really good-natured about it. And Harry has bought a ton of pieces by him. Harry loves him.
Underrated. Krakoa Mini is the Empire tie-in that was created to fit into a pure derangement and reads exactly that way. Thank you, Mr. Kyle, for the super chat. My question is, when is the old reader, new reader, mutant massacre crew going to return for Fall of the Mutants? And then Inferno, of course. Oh, that would be fun. I was actually talking to Peter after the show, and I was like, I'd love to work in some of those so the ladies can kind of build a connection to these characters, right? Because the problem with reading just events is, okay, I don't care if so-and-so dies. Oh, I don't want to spoil what happens in Fall, but there's a betrayal in X Factor that if you haven't read X Factor up until that point, you're like, who is this guy? I remember him in the Mutant Massacre. Why do I care if he's betraying the team? And I feel like you miss that if you're not reading. So I was thinking maybe we should do an X Factor old reader, new reader, where we just talk about these issues, because we know Oddfell has been reading those, but I'd love for Amanda and Maddie to also read those. But yes, of course we will. Of course we will. Any chance we get some old school Leather Jacket? Threnody was a character I was thinking about the other day. That I'm like, man, we haven't really seen her in so long. The actual best Krakoa book is X-Corp.
I loved
Speaking of
X-Corps.
no, what?
I
Oh,
loved X-Corps.
oh God.
I love superheroes having to deal with bureaucratic nonsense. It's one of my favorite tropes. It gets me every time.
It was like reading Business Weekly.
I
No,
loved it.
I did not like that one.
Rub it all over my body.
Oh, stop it. I have an oversized Fallen Angels custom hardcover. They can sell me anything. Oh, let me clarify something. Yeah, I can complain about these series. I'll complain about Chuck Austin's X-Men and Peter Milligan's X-Men. But I will buy that omnibus day one if I have to. Oh my God, yes. Bring back the channel, Peter. Look at that. People are speaking. Cable's originally ongoing series was great. I thought for the life of me, I can't remember who the right. Oh, Baby Nicieza and then Jeff Loeb.
It was really good. I've actually up to like issue 18 or 19 or a household read, and Cable was good every month. It's a great book.
It was fun. Great art too, especially when Scrooge took over the book. But then, of course, he ended up leaving to go to X-Man. Everything Liefeld created was limited to one dimension. All right. I am ending the poll. Thank you, everybody that voted. And the poll has spoken. So coming in at number one with 63% of the votes of 151 people, Uncanny X-Men. Coming in at number two, X-Men Adjectiveless at 31%, and Exceptional X-Men at 5%. Thank you, everybody, for voting. Who didn't get a chance to vote? Who is complaining about they didn't get it? I gave you like 20 minutes, Josh.
Josh already said he was listening to this as background noise, so he probably didn't realize the poll was running until it was over.
There you go. I just love talking heads on NMC so much. Yeah. What are you all trying to do? Take Peter from me?
You're trying to poach me.
Yeah, what's going on with that? 5% recount. Thank you, Alan, for reminding people.
Hey, man, we got our deputy prime minister right now in New Zealand got 6% of the vote, and he's given press conferences about the future of the country. So 5% is enough.
Oh, my gosh. Shin Godzilla is an X-Men movie. You're so right. Shin Godzilla. Oh, I love Shin Godzilla. So good. You haven't seen it. You see? I don't know. Are you a fan of Godzilla?
I've never seen a Godzilla movie. I don't watch movies really. How do you watch movies? You spend so much time reading comic books and making videos.
While I'm editing.
While you watch movies
you
edit?
While I edit. Because I'm so used to my voice.
Are you Zaphod Beeblebrox? Do you have two heads? How do you do that?
No, I just while I'm editing, because I'm so used to my voice and stuff, like if I know I was like, oh, I was on a good streak on this one. I got this. If I'm one that I'm like, oh God, I can't find anything nice to say about this, then it becomes harder. And I'm like, there's so many times I stop and I'm like, okay, I can't say that.
That's what I mean, not to get too inside baseball in the middle of the stream, but that's what blows my mind about your channel, that you do all these lives and you coordinate them with all these people and you have edited videos. The editing killed me. There was a point that I was editing 4 hours a day.
It was awful. It's awful.
Yeah.
Like editing is the one thing I wish I could take away from my daily life. Like reading, filming. I'll even do filming.
I love all of it.
But the editing is just something I don't even have an eye for it. I just I do it because it needs doing. Right.
And the other thing is, though, I get really angry when people do podcasts or things and they edit badly. Like when I edited, you better believe if there's somebody bumping up against the microphone, I compress that out. Or like if somebody was sniffly, that got dropped out of the audio mix. Because I mean, one of my many degrees is in music production. And it really bothers me when people pump out material and then it's like clicky and you can like hear all that. I'm like, that's not a professional podcast. Come on. I was doing a professional podcast that was not making the money that your podcast is doing. And I was taking all that stuff out as an editor. So yeah, I actually do like editing. I don't like video editing. I like podcasting. Anyway, that's some inside baseball about how hard Omar is working behind the scenes for y'all. It is not easy. This stuff.
It's my absolute pleasure. I love it. I love what I do. It's fun. It's amazing. I can't believe I'm doing this. I get to talk about X-Men. If people want to watch me, oh my God. It's like
right? Dream come true.
Okay, first of all, try to explain to 12-year-old me what the internet was.
Right?
What?
Try to go back and tell 12-year-olds how people are going to watch you talk about X-Men on the internet.
Not only that, but just explain the whole concept of the internet. Wait, I can do my banking and see boobies at the same place? This is amazing. Burning Hand of Friendship. Thank you so much, buddy. Thank you. Are you guys going to do this again when the creative teams for the other books get announced? Yes. Oddfell was going to join us, but she is in Chicago, Chi-Town. And she was going to see if she could make it back, but she didn't make it back to join us. So we'll see if she makes it back. For the next one. Yeah,
this was originally pitched as a trio show, 3 books with 3 hosts.
Yeah.
And Oddfell is just too busy for us this weekend.
Yeah,
but,
it's okay.
You know.
It's okay. Omar, edit. No scripts needed, baby. I don't do scripts. I don't understand how people do scripts. God bless.
I used to do ones on teleprompter, and I think I permanently got vision damage, like staring at the ring light and the teleprompter to try to, not easy.
That's why there's a lot of ums. So this page, that's pretty cool, huh? It's Psylocke with a bathing suit. That's really cool. Thanks, buddy. I'm glad you found us too. That should be the slogan for the internet: banking and boobies. Try to explain to 12-year-old Omar what this future is gonna hold. We notice and appreciate all the hard work, Omar, and all the panelists as well. Oh, yes. I would not. This would not be as fun if it's just me here flipping through these things, which I've done in the past, and I don't mind when everybody's busy. But it makes it so much more fun flipping through these things and talking about these books with Peter, like, who also loves the X-Men as much as I do. Although we have a difference of opinion on what is good and what's awful.
Every time you learn like another secret.
This is like a dark side of you
that makes you doubt me even more. What have we covered in this one? We've covered Wolverine Origins.
Oh God, we don't even need to bring that up again, like, ever.
Yeah.
And yeah, there was something else that you mentioned. I'm like, really? Oh, you learned I hated X-Corp, and I learned that you liked it a lot. One day, the stream will reach the end of our solar system, and the new sentient races will learn all about X-Men and then probably nuke the universe when they realize half of your audience thinks of them as Alf. Probably. Peter and Omar, you both are awesome people. Appreciate all that you guys do. Thank you all for the kind words. Seriously. Looking forward to the next Evergreen video after seeing Wolverine. Oh, wait a minute. Well, no, Wolverine Origins does not have an omnibus, so we're safe from that nightmare.
But there is an Evergreen show later this week.
That's right. Thursday, we have another Evergreen show because we have made that kind of a staple of the channel every month. Where we talk about what we think should be a book that Marvel or DC will always keep in print. We're also going to do a manga show. Be interesting to have Peter on. I know OmniDog is like, I am not in that one. You all have fun. I think he's read 2 manga, but that's okay. But I have other panelists that really want to be in that one. And it's been a lot of fun. The arguing and the yelling, the name calling.
The personal assassination of character,
the betrayal, I don't need to know that much about people. My goodness, it gets it's a lot of fun. So if you haven't tuned in for that, we are doing it this Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and you'll get to meet your panelists there, and it's going to be a lot of fun. We'll have a slideshow, right, Peter?
I hope.
If you need help
now the week rolls out,
if you need help with that, let me know. Need an Evergreen show or Readers Explain for Muppets? The Evergreen streams are wonderful. I'm so glad you enjoy them, Phil, because I know you come in here when I bring you bring some balance to the insanity that is. Why aren't these people voting for the one book that's constantly out of print and keep coming back? Phoenix Omnibus. Enough said. Whew. You said it, buddy. Peter, where can people find you when you're not hanging out with me, my friend?
Oh, well, I am writing many days of the week at crushingcrisis.com. It's like a one-person wiki about comic books, especially Marvel comic books. I cover new Marvel releases every week. I have guides to how to read and collect over 200 different titles and characters, including a huge amount of the Marvel universe, as well as DC and indie books as well. And also, as it's come up in the chat a little bit, but not on the show, I also write about Drag Race on crushingcrisis.com. So lots of media to cover there and lots of interesting ways to catch up on the comics that you love and figure out where to start reading the comics that you love, which I know is often hard to figure out.
And thank you, James, for posting the Crushing Crisis website and also his YouTube channel. We need Tarun on an evergreen. She was excited when I mentioned that we were going to do characters.
Oh my gosh, could you imagine?
So she said she would be. Now we'd have to do that a little bit earlier because she's in Norway. But oh my gosh, it's Tarun Grumbeck. I would love to just have her
evergreen Thor stories.
Ooh. And she's another one that does a lot of these like read-throughs of classic stories before reading a particular or writing a particular run. Okay. And for me, I'm the Uncanny Omar. I'm out of here. I gotta actually go and read and then film. Maybe I'll wait until tomorrow. It's still my birthday celebration. I'm still kind of sobering up. But I just want to again thank my co-host for being here. Go and check out his website. Go and check out his YouTube channel if he still ever wants to come on there. And yeah, we will both be together again this Thursday at 6 p.m. if you want to watch that and join us for that insanity. And we're letting the chat, the audience, we'll do a poll for books that we may have missed, like a couple of books. And that's really fun. But this time around, I think we're keeping it a secret as to how many books we get to choose and what we're coming in with for the X-Men Evergreen. And it's everything X-Men. It's Wolverine. It's X-Factor. It's X-Force. It's X-Men, whatever. So as long as it's X-Men related, we can bring it up for Evergreen chat. And then I'm here every day. So the announcement video for the Epic Collection reprint poll will come out on Wednesday. We're actually talking about that. I'm talking to James. The big thank you to James for putting it together about what to do about a certain account that voted 192 times. So got to trim the fat, right? Got to trim the fat, but that's okay. Thank you everybody for watching. Stay healthy and safe out there. Much love. Oh, wait. Check out cheapgraphicnovels.com here in America. Books up to 50% off. Tell them Near Mint Condition sent you their way if you're interested in omnis or hardcovers. Okay, now I'm out of here. Bye, everybody. Have a great weekend, or Monday if you're